Close the doors of your mind. Close the gates of your mind. Close the gates of your palace, your ba'is, your ohel, your tent, your mishkan, your mikdash. The body that you dwell inside, the body that you live inside. And bring your mind, your heart, and your mind, your yetzir, your makashaba, your imaginations to balance within yourself. Within your 12 cranial nerves, within your 12 melanin centers, within your yod and your kaf that governs your body and what you do with your yod, your 2 yods and your kaf. With your feet, where you go, your regal. Knowing that when you walk by the way, when you lie down, when you rise up, you do this with your body. And with your body is an instrument of righteousness. So today we acknowledge the one who made out the heart of the earth, all in the heart of the earth, and rivers and streams, the one who formed and shaped all these things before his shabath. The one who gave life and understanding to Adam and Kawua inside of their body and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and each became a living soul before the shabath. The one who allowed us to live and understand who we are as his people and as his creation on earth. Yahuwah Elohim, who formed light and ore before the 4th day of creation. Yahuwah Elohim. For his commandment is a lamp and his Torah is a light. His instructions and correction and reproof is a way of life. Even as a father corrects his children or a mother corrects her children, so Yahuwah does inside of us every single morning when we wake up in the morning, to make sure we conduct ourselves in the light and the aura in the world presently, while he watches with all his witnesses in the highest Shamayim. So as we move forward in righteousness, we move forward in peace, we move forward in truth. For these are all the truths of Yahuwah. Right, so this is the book of Yeshayahu, Isaiah chapter 56. Isaiah, Yeshayahu chapter 56 and verse 1. Isaiah chapter 56. Isaiah chapter 56 and verse 1. Isaiah chapter 56 and verse 1. And it says, "Thus says Yahuwah, keep justice or keep judgment and do righteousness, for soon salvation will come." So you got to keep doing this. You got to keep doing the righteousness all the way till judgment day. Right? This is not something you just do once in a lifetime, one day at a time. Like you say, one day, you got to do it every day. Keep justice and do righteousness, and soon salvation will come. And my righteousness, my sadak, and my sadiq will be revealed. Barak is the man who does this, and the son of man who holds it fast. Right? You gotta hold on to it as hard as you possibly can. Who keeps the shabath not profaning it. So you can keep the shabath and still profane it. You can still do it, right? It doesn't matter. You can keep the shabath. People have been keeping shabath for almost over 6,000 years. So what's the difference? What's the difference between you keeping the shabath and everybody else? And keeps his yod, from doing any evil. So that means your yod got to be in subjection to you, which means if you don't have control or self-control, as Galatians chapter 5 says, and have self-control over your yod is going to make you're going to be doing evil with it. And you know the yod, Yahuwah's right hand is in your hand. That same hand, he can do a lot of things with it. He created the shamayim in the earth, the sea, and everything in it. Matter of fact, he can do a lot of things with that yod, but you can too. And you can use it for evil too. It says, "Let not the foreigner who has joined himself to Yahuwah say, Yahuwah surely separated me from his people." Right? So I'm going to even say that. You know, the foreigner. You know what he says? "And let not the eunuch say," you know, the one who ain't going to have no intercourse with no woman, "Behold, I am a dry tree." He said, you got things on the inside of you. You ain't no dry tree. You can't create children. But it says right here, because if you get rid of the mean, then you ain't got no semen on the inside of you. Right? That's get rid of the Aleph. You don't want to get rid of the 13th Aleph. That's very important. "For thus says Yahuwah to the eunuchs who keep my shabbats, who choose the things that please me." So you think you're choosing, you see you made a choice between what you desire, just like you cleansing yourself in this first month, these first 16 days, right? What does that do? You're choosing what you desire. You're choosing something. You're choosing the things that please Yahuwah by cleansing the filth out of your house, cleansing the filth out of the house. You're choosing to do that. And hold fast to my bereath. You're choosing to do that. I will give, get what he said I'm going to do. I'm going to give in my house and within my walls a monument and a name better than the sons and daughters. So that means male and female. So when you do these, you understand, he said son and daughters. So that's more than one person, one group of people. He said, I'm going to give you a name better than all of them. A monument and a name better than the sons and daughters. And I will give them an everlasting name that shall not be cut off. This is why you know the cleansing process of the first 16 days going toward Pesach is very important. Why? Because a lot of people are going to get cut off. Because they ain't do it properly. Why? Because it's important to understand to remove the Ayol out of your Ehal, your Ehel, before that time comes. Why? Because it's a part of it. So you won't be cut off from among his people. We know what cutting off is. He's like he cut Saul off when he wouldn't answer his prayer. He said, why are you not answering me? It's just like when he cut Mashal off when he said, don't ask me no more about this. You're gonna get cut off. Your prayer is going to be hindered. That's cut off from Yahuwah. He say, when you get assaults of demons and shadim and all types of things come against you and people surround you on every side, then you ain't got nobody to pray to. That's being cut off. I cut communication off from you. That people say, I'm going to die. Do you know if you get Yahuwah cuts communication from you, that's the same thing as dead. If you don't answer your prayer, that's the same thing. And the foreigner who sojourn themselves to Yahuwah to minister to him, to love the name of Yahuwah, and to be his servants. Right? Not somebody else's servant, his Abyb. Everyone who keeps the shabath and not profane it. These I will bring to Qahalath mountain. So that's one of the stipulations you got to do. He said, I want to go to Yahuwah's Qahalath mountain. I want to be a part of his kingdom. Well, guess what? There's a requirement for every single person who wants to get salvation and see his righteousness revealed. There's only one. There's a requirement, and that's one of them. And to make them joyful in my house of prayer, their burnt offering and their sacrifices will be accepted on my altar. For my house shall be called a house of prayer for all people. So how are you gonna do that if your prayer is hindered? If your prayers are hindered, if Yahuwah ain't answering your prayer anymore. How you gonna do that? How you gonna do that? Right, going skipping over to verse 9. All you beasts in the field come and devour. All you beasts in the forest. His watchmen are blind. What do you mean his watchmen? Are blind. They are without knowledge. Be not hatmadah. That they are all silent dogs that cannot bark, which means you ain't speaking. You ain't saying nothing out of your mouth. You ain't teaching in the bar. You're a watchman. You're not sounding a warning, because that's what a watchman is. When you see something coming, when you see something afar off, you're supposed to lean out and see what it is and then let everybody know what's going. Now, if you don't say nothing, then it becomes like, so you really don't care about nobody, do you? You only care about yourself. You know, it's called selfish ambitions. You only care about yourself. You're only thinking about saving your own life. You don't care about nobody else. He said, they bark, dreaming, lying down, loving to slumber. He said, you don't care about nobody else. You know good well something coming and you see it and you're going to sit there and lie down and go to sleep. And guess what? And you know it's there and you know it's coming and you don't say nothing. And you don't care about nobody else. Oh, Yahushua said he took on the form of a servant. He humbled himself even to the point of death. Matter of fact, we're going up in the time of much shamar, much watching. And what did Yahushua do? Yahushua ain't go to sleep. He stayed up the whole night. He said, go ahead and sleep on. He said, you're not a watchman like me. He said, behold, it's at hand. He already knew what was coming. And guess what? The dogs have a mighty appetite. They never have enough. He said, no matter what, you ain't never going to satisfy people like that who sleep. You know how people go to sleep? You know, we're talking about sleepy people. You're not going to ever satisfy them until they take it upon themselves to stay up and stay awake. If they don't stay awake, there's no point in you trying to keep them awake, because they're gonna go to sleep anyway. And guess what? But they are shepherds that have no understanding, or shepherdess. You know, shepherdess? Yeah, shepherdess too. You have no understanding. They have all turned to their own way, shepherds and shepherdess. Each to his own gain, one and all. Everybody worried about their own gain. Gold, silver, tin, iron, right? Just like a pocket from the John. Everybody worried about their own gain. But this is the point of all this. Come, they say, let us get wine. You know, they all worried about their money, what they're going to drink that night, what they're going to drink during the day. And let us fill ourselves with strong drink. Let us get us drunk. Why? And tomorrow we will be like this day, great beyond measure. He said it just continue to be like that, right? So what's the point of all this? Go in the book of Dabri Hayamim, 2 Chronicles 29:1, 2 Chronicles 29:1, 2 Chronicles 29:1. Going to verse 3, 29:3. In the first year of his reign, in the first month, he opened the doors of the house of Yahuwah and repaired them. So we're on the 4th day of the first month now. So from the first day, when we first started counting, to this Shabbat, this is now the 4th day of the count of the new 364, according to the 4th day of creation, because the 4th day of creation, you started counting. That's when time was created for the feast in the Moab. And you start there, and we're on the 4th day of that count, of the new 364-day cycle for the feast day count, Muad count. And it says, in the first year of his reign, in the first month, he opened the doors of the house of Yahuwah and repaired them. And he brought in the priests and the Levites and assembled them in the square of the east and said to them, hear me, Levites, now consecrate yourselves and consecrate the house of Yahuwah, the Elohim of your fathers, and carry out the filth out of the Qahalath place. Get the filth out of the Qahalath place, out of your body, out of the house. For our fathers have been unfaithful and have done what is evil in the sight of Yahuwah, our Elohim. So has your father been unfaithful? Your natural father. When you grew up, was your father unfaithful? Did he teach you to the bar? Did he give you the understanding of how to clean the filth out of your house in the first month, to the 16th day of the month? Did he give you the understanding of that? Then guess what? You need to clean the filth out of your house, because you got a lot of dirt on the inside of you. If you ain't been doing it from birth to present, from the time you came in out of your mother's matrix until now, you have a lot of filth in your house. You do. People say, yeah, you have a lot of filth in your house. Because he never did it. Because, continual washing by the bars we talked about before, he wasn't doing that. So therefore, you got a lot of dirt and filth in your house. They have forsaken him and turned away their faces from the habitation of Yahuwah and turned their backs. Right? Everybody, turned their back. They also shut the doors of the vestibule and put out the lamps and have burned incense or offered burnt offerings in his Qahalath place to the Elohim of Yasharal. They have not done it. And guess what they have? Therefore, the wrath of Yahuwah has came on Yehuda and Jerusalem, right? Skipping over. He said, all that's because that's why the wrath on the household now, right? And that's why a lot of these things take place, right? Going to verse 17. They began to consecrate on the first day of the first month, and on the 8th day of the month, they came to the vestibule of Yahuwah. So we're on the 4th day, right? So you got four more days before the 8th day of the first month. Still, a lot of cleaning to do. A lot of removing things out of your heart and your mind you got to do. So please don't be thinking like, yeah, I don't got to do anything. Yes, you do. Living in a world like this, there's a lot of things that you can see, do, and understand, and take part in. Ignorantly. And some willingly. And guess what? It's inside of your house. And it says, then for 8 days they consecrated the house of Yahuwah until the 16th day of the first month, and they finished, right? Because that's all a part of it. You got to do it all the way there. But this is all a process, right? So he said, focus on these next 4 days, right? This is Matthew chapter 12 and verse 38. Matthew chapter 12. Let's Let's go to Matthew chapter 12, verse 35. Matthew chapter 12 and verse 35. Matthew chapter 12, verse 35. It says, the good person out of his good treasures brings forth good. So this is why you gotta get all the stuff out of your house. Because it's inside of your treasuries. You know, the innermost parts of your house. We talked about this. But at the same time, it's in there. And the evil person out of his evil treasures brings forth evil. So it's inside of you. You got it in your treasuries. It could be a whole bunch of things. It could be evil communication. It could be evil money you made. Evil unjust gain that you get ready to try to use it to do something for Yahuwah with. It says, out of his treasures bring forth evil. I tell you, on the day of judgment, people will give an account for every careless word they speak. So where are all them words you speak at? He said, write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates, right? So it's inside of you. So whoever sowed those seeds, those words inside of you, guess what? You got to get them all out of you. Right, you're going to end up saying something careless words against Yahuwah's greatness, as First Enoch says. You're going to end up saying something out of your mouth that you shouldn't say. For by your words you will be justified, and by your words you will be condemned. So how is Yahuwah judge us? By what we say. What come out of your vestibule, your elul? What come out of your mouth, between your tongue and your cheekbones? He's going to judge you according to that. That's the whole point, right? So this is book Testament of Reuben, chapter 1. Testament of Reuben, chapter 1. The 12 patriarchs. 12 patriarchs. Testament of Reuben, chapter 1. Testament of Reuben, chapter 1. Let's go all the way to verse 21. Testament of Reuben, chapter 1, 21. Wherefore it is the last in order of creation, and the first is that of youth, because it is filled with ignorance, and leadeth the youth as a blind man to a pit, and as a beast to a precipice. It says, besides all these, there is an eighth spirit of sleep. Right? So we talk about Tardema, we talk about Kazum, but it says an eighth spirit of sleep, with which is brought about the trance of nature and of death. All right, because the wages of sin is death. With these spirits are mingled the spirits of error. Spirits of error. When you have the ruach of sleep. First is the spirit ruach of fornication. That's idol worship. It could be idol worship, intercourse, outside of marriage, all that. It is seated in the nature and in the senses, right? It's in your nature, in your DNA, and in what you see and what you look at. The second is the ruach of insatiableness in the belly. That's overeating. You can never have enough. You say you gotta keep consuming, and you'll never be satisfied. Because that's the type of people you are. In Yeshayahu 56. He said you'll never be satisfied. There ain't no way in the world you can satisfy a person like this. They greedy dogs, can never have enough. It says the third is the ruach of fighting in the liver and the gall, right? That's where it's at. In your liver and your gall. He said fighting. That's what you call words fighting, fist fighting, rivalries, quarreling. That's in your liver and your gall, in your inner parts, in your organs. That's why your organs look a certain way, right? It says the fourth is the ruach of obsequiousness and chicanery, that through officious attention one may be fair and seeming, right? There's a political advancement for financial gain or money. Boasting about what you have in this life and showing it off, that you may look like you somebody and you not. The fifth is the ruach of pride, because you know you got pride. That's how Azazel, Asbaal, Amoros, right? Penuel, they all fell because of pride. Because pride comes just before a fall. The fifth is the ruach of pride, that one may be boastful and arrogant, because that's what happens when you get conceited, boastful and arrogant. And you know people love when you get boastful and arrogant because it appeals to their flesh. Amazing, like people love that. People attract to that. Boastful and arrogant, overbearing in one's accomplishments and showing all. That's all you talk about. These are all the ruach of sleep, and people have this in their life. They don't even know it. I already talked about these before in Kazab, but at the same time, a long time ago. But at the same time, boastful and arrogant, overbearing about one's own accomplishments in this world. And it says the sixth is the ruach of lying. And guess what? He's going to make you lie even more and more and more about the things you own. All these are inside of you. These are all things you got to get out. Right? In perdition and jealousy to practice deceit. Right? Because these are all inside of you. And concealment from kindred and friend. Why? You're concealing all of these from people. So you're going to use your jealousy, you're going to use your lying and your deceits, and you're going to conceal all these things that you do from people. And you're going to interact with people, and you're going to use that against them. You're going to use it. They're going to be like weapons. And you know, when you will start assaulting people with deceit and jealousy and lying, those are called assaults. You know, like 1st degree murder, 2nd degree assault, 3rd degree felony, right? When you start to put those things on other people, that's 3rd degree felony. You did that to me. You did that to the other person. So therefore it becomes assault. Right? And then the 7th is the ruach of injustice. That's injustice. He said do justice and righteousness. We read that in Yeshayahu 56. His righteousness is going to be revealed, right? But at the same time, the 7th is the ruach of injustice. That's improper judgment. How you say mishpat, dan, shafat. Because you got to do justice. Because it's not written in your Torah, said you are Elohim, with which are thefts and acts of rapacity. Why? Taking bribes. You start taking bribes, and bribes ain't just money. That a man may fulfill the desires of his heart. That's the only reason you're doing it. For your own ambitions. For injustice working together with the other spirits by taking of gifts, bribes. With all these, the ruach of sleep is joined. They all join together, and they love you. They love to you. They love you. Which is that of error and fantasy, right? It's all a fantasy world. A world that's only temporary. You know how we have a temporary world? They show you this all the time. You say, why the world deal in fantasies so much? It's because those fantasies become your reality. And when those fantasies become your reality, then guess what? You perform them in your reality. Yeshayahu, this is Isaiah chapter 29, verse 9. Go to Isaiah. I think it's Isaiah. Yeah, Isaiah 29. Isaiah 29 and 9. Actually, yeah, go to Isaiah 29 and 8. Yeshayahu 29 and 8. As when a hungry man dreams, and behold, he is eating, and awakes with his hunger not satisfied, you're never going to be satisfied. Or as when a thirsty man dreams, and behold, he is drinking. It's all fantasy. You know, fantasy world. It's all fantasy. You know, you could fantasize about women, money, food, car, flying. You could fantasize about a lot of things. It says, as when a thirsty man dreams, and behold, he is drinking, and awakes faint, with his thirst not quenched, so shall the multitude of the nations be that fight against Mount Sion. Why? Because Mount Sion's cleansing themselves right now. They still in the fantasy world. The people of the nations, Goyim, they still in the fantasy world. He said, we're not in fantasy world. This ain't no fantasy. This is reality for us. The story is only real to those who do it. It ain't real to those who don't do it. It's a fantasy, right? It ain't real to them. It's real to you. But for them, it's just a fantasy world. Like, man, that's impossible. But at the same time, they live in a fantasy world. It says, and fight against Mount Zion. Astonish yourselves and be astonished. Blind yourselves and be blind. Because you got the Ruach of sleep. And you know, there are 7 other spirits that join with you. And guess what? Be drunk, but not with wine. When we going to get our next bottle of wine? Right? When we going to get everybody to their own unjust gain. But guess what? Stagger, but not with strong drink. You ain't even got to do that. Stagger, but not with strong drink. For Yahuwah has poured out upon you the Ruach of deep sleep. Why? Because they're in the fantasy world. They're in the fantasy world. If you're in a fantasy world. And have closed their eyes, the Nabi'im, and have covered your heads, the seers. The vision of all of this has become to you like words of a book that is sealed. When men give it to one who can read, saying, read this, he says, I cannot, for it is sealed. Because I'm in my fantasy world. I have my own life, and I turn to my own way, and I do my own thing. And I don't even keep the things to get into the Mount Zion and get into Mount Zion and Yahuwah's kingdom and his righteousness get revealed. I have my own understanding. Guess what? And when they give the book to one who cannot read, saying, read this, he says, I cannot read. Now he said, why do you outlaw reading and writing? Because he said, I can't read. And Yahuwah said, because this people draw near with their mouth, so who did it? Who did that to you? Why do you think he outlawed reading and writing for you? That was your punishment. You know why? Because you were reading and writing before that. He said, I'm an outlaw reading and writing. He said, why can't I read? You said, this is outrageous. Why I can't read and learn these things? Because Yahuwah punished you. Because you did it before. You actually knew how to read. You actually knew how to understand. But being that you did something when you learned it, though. Because the people draw near with their mouths and honor me with their lips, while their hearts are far from me, and their fear of me is a commandment taught by men. This is why he outlawed reading and writing. That's why he did it for you. Yahuwah did that for you. Because we draw near with our mouth and our lips, but yet our hearts, we were nowhere near him. He says, you know what? I don't even want you to read my stuff anymore. I don't even want you to look at it. Matter of fact, stay in fantasy world. Continue to repeat the same cycle over and over again. Matter of fact, keep repeating the very things that I did to you as if other people did it. I want you to keep doing that. And keep on seeing, but don't see. Because you know why? I want you to continue to do that because of all the stuff you did, because your heart was never with me in the first place. While their hearts are far from me, and their fear of me is a commandment taught by men. That's all they keep talking about. It's what another man did to them, or another people, another goyim, another woman. That's all they talk about. Why? Because they don't understand that it was Yahuwah who did it to them. Therefore, behold, I will again do wonderful things with this people, with wonder upon wonder, and the wisdom of their wise shall perish. And the discernment of the discerning men shall be hidden. He said it's going to be hidden. You know what happens when you don't have no discerning men around and everything becomes hidden? That means you're going to have to find it. Right, so this is the book of Yuchanan. This is the book of John. This is the book of John, Yuchanan chapter 6. You can actually go to Yuchanan chapter 7 and verse 34. Yuchanan chapter 7 verse 32. Yuchanan chapter 7 verse 32. The Pharisees heard the crowd muttering these things about him, and the chief priests and the Pharisees sent officers to arrest him. And Yahushua then said, I will be with you a little longer, and then I am going to him who sent me. He said, I'm going to hide the wisdom of the wise going to be hidden from you. You will seek me and you will not find me. He said it's going to be hidden from you. And guess what? Where I am, you cannot come. He said you won't be able to find me. It's going to be hidden from you. The wisdom of the wise is going to be hidden from you. Because you draw near with your lips and your mouth, but your heart has never been with Yahuwah before. The Yahudim said to one another, where does this man intend to go, that we will not find him? He said, I already hid it from you already. Does he intend to go into the dispersion among the Goyim and teach the Greeks? Why would he go to the Goyim? They don't understand either. The nations, the Goyim, don't understand. You keep saying the nations did it to you. Matter of fact, you keep saying that Goyim did all this stuff to you. What does he mean saying you will seek me and you will not find me? He said, you're going to find me. Where I am, you cannot come. Huh? Verse 37, on the last day, the great day, Yahushua stood up and cried out. So they asked the question. You know how they say? You think Yahushua ain't hear their question? They repeated the same thing he said. So Yahushua waited to a great day. What day? When he waited for that? What great day he waited for? On that last day, the last day, the great day, Yahushua stood up and cried, if any man thirst, let him come to me and drink. So what day was that when he cried out? Of course we know it was cockatoo, but what day? It was the 8th day. And amazingly, what we do on the 8th day, he said by the time the 8th day came, they came to the vestibule before on the first month. And they cleansed themselves from all the wickedness out of their house. And amazingly, he said, you ain't gonna find this wisdom for some reason. I don't know. I don't think you're gonna be able to find it because it's hidden from you. You got the ruach of deep sleep. You're in fantasy world. The story is only real to those who do it. It ain't real for people who don't do it. Continually. On the last day, the great day of the feast, Yahushua stood up and cried out, if anyone thirsts, let him come to me and drink. You know what we just read? He said, you're gonna be like in a tardim or a dream, and you're gonna be like you thirsty, but you ain't gonna have nothing to drink. Because you're still in fantasy world. Because it's not real for you. For the people who do it, and the people who understand it, even as I speak, they understand this is for real for us. It's not real for the people who don't do it. It's like the never-ending story. The one boy who read the book, he was the only one who believed the story. Everybody else didn't understand it. It's like, man, everybody else didn't understand the story. It's just him. If anyone thirsts, let him come to me and drink. Whosoever believes in me, as the scripture has said, out of his heart shall flow rivers of living water. Now you can drink now. Matter of fact, you can drink now. You ain't going to be in fantasy world anymore. It's not going to be like you're thirsty and it's going to be like a dream and you're thirsty and you have no drink when you wake up. It's not going to be like that. Yahuwah going to speak to you when you sit in the house, walk by the way, even when you lie down and when you rise up. It ain't going to be like no fantasy world for you. You're going to be sleeping and you're going to be drinking. You're going to wake up and you're going to be drinking. It's going to be always in your heart and your mind. He will be with you always. That fountain of living water is going to be with you always, even to the end of the world. You're always going to have something to drink. It's going to be a famine for everybody else, though, because they're in fantasy world. They still got the ruach of deep sleep. And they go to sleep. How come I wake up thirsty and I want to drink a bottle of wine and get drunk again? You want to know why? Because you in fantasy world. If you wake up from your dream and you like, man, Yahuwah, speak to me. Tell me something, right? And get what? He start telling you stuff. And guess what? It comes from your fountain of living water. And guess what? You're not going to wake up, oh, I want something to drink. I want some strong drink. Let me get drunk. No, you're not going to wake up like that. Because you got the bar on the inside of you. Right? So this is the book of Jeremiah chapter 6, Jeremiah chapter 6, 16 through Jeremiah chapter 6. Jeremiah chapter 6 and 16. Yirmiyahu 6:16. Thus says Yahuwah, stand ye in the roads and look and ask for the ancient path. What do you mean ancient path? That's the ancient way. That's the ways before your ways. You know how it says the ways before your ways. Where is the good way? That's where you're going to have good deeds. You're going to be doing good. It's the ways before you came on the scene. And walk in it, and you will find rest for your soul. That's why we just read in Yeshayahu chapter 56. What happens when the Yeshayahu 56, right? This is the first Shabbat, the 364-day cycle. What he said. Barak is he who keep the Shabbat. From profaning it, you find rest for your souls. So guess what? But they said, we will not walk in it. You know why? You know why they don't walk in it? Because they're in fantasy world. You're in a fantasy world. Guess what? I said watchman over you. What do you mean watchman? You think it's just male watchman? How you know it? I said watchman over you, saying, pay attention to the sound of the teruah. So you think it was just male watchmen? But they said we will not pay attention. You know what? You know why they say that? We're going to Bereshit chapter 1 and verse 4. Bereshit chapter 1 and verse 14. Genesis chapter 1 verse 14. Bereshit chapter 1 verse 14. And Elohim said, let there be a light or in the expanse, in the rakia of the Shama'ims, to separate the day from the night. Right? Separate people from the day and people from the night. How do you know people from the day and the night? From Yom and Kasha. Right? Some people in fantasy world, they don't believe it. They wake up in the night, they're not watching at night, nor in the daytime. A woman in the ordering of her house is like the sun. She is the children of the day. A man in the ordering of his house is like the man in the ordering of his house, and the fear of Elohim is like a sun rising on a cloudless day. That's why you got to get all the filth out of your house. Why? Because this is all a part of this whole transformation, or you're just going to still be in fantasy world. It says, let there be light. That's why we know how you know it's male and female watchmen. How you know? Because I know. Let there be lights in the Shama'ims and expanse of the Shama'ims to separate the day from the night. And let there be for signs, right? Eod, for seasons, right? Mu'ed, right? And for days, Yom and Shana, years. And let there be lights in the expanse of the Shama'ims to give light upon the earth. And guess what? And it was so. And Elohim made two great lights. So please don't be thinking you ain't great. A great light. Or the greater light to rule the day, Gadol Ma'or, and the lesser light to rule the night, and the Kukabim. And Elohim set them in the expanse of the Shamayim to give light on the earth, to rule over the day and over the night. Why? Because he said, I said watchman over you. He said to what? To hearken to the sound of the teruah, to listen. But they said we ain't gonna pay attention to that. You know who said that? And the stars, the Kukab, said they're not going to pay attention to the two great lights. They said they're not going to pay attention to you. To rule over the day and over the night and separate the light from the darkness. How are you going to separate light from darkness in your household? How are you going to separate light from darkness inside of you? How are you going to separate light and darkness inside of your Adah? How are you going to set light from darkness when you don't understand that there are male and female watchmen? And to separate the light from the darkness. And Elohim saw that it was good. So Yahuwah likes male and female watchmen. How do you know this? And there was evening, there was morning, the fourth day. Oh, what today is? Rabbi Iyum, right? What day is this? This is the fourth day since the first day count. On the new Mu'ed cycle, it started on the fourth day. And amazingly, it started on the fourth day, and we're on the fourth day of the count. Amazing. And this is the fourth day when he made watchmen over Yasharal. Because, you know, you got to prepare yourself, because this is a night of much watching you're ready to come up on Pesach. All this takes place according to the cycle. it has a pattern to it. And what's 4 plus 4 anyway? Oh, it equals to 8. Oh, you mean Yahuwah himself, the bar, Yehudi, Torah, equals to 8. Because it's all a part of it. Right, this is the book of Bereshit, chapter 37. They say I'm going to take notes on that one. This is Bereshit, chapter 37, and verse 37 and 5. Bereshit, chapter 37 and 5. Now Yusuf had a dream. Oh, you mean the Tardimat? You think Yusuf was in fantasy world? You know how you say? Yusuf was in fantasy world. Like, you know how I have a dream, you thirsting, you eat some food, they ain't there no more, and you wake up, you know. I had food in my dream, and then it didn't show up in reality. I had thirsty. I was eating in my dream. I was thirsty in my dream, but I woke up with no drink. Then amazingly, he said, have food and raiment, be content. But people don't understand that either. He said, now you going to Bereshit 37 and 5. Now Yusuf had a dream, and when he had told to his brothers, Akim, they hated him even more. So you think they ain't gonna hate you? Saneh, right? And he said to them, hear this dream that I have dreamed. Behold, we were binding sheaves in the field, and behold, my sheaf arose and stood upright. And you know how what happens when a sheaf, when you get ready to harvesting wheat, what happens? It bends. When it's first planted, it sticks straight up. When it first come up, but when it starts to mature, it starts to bend. But he said, mine stood upright. And behold, your sheaves gathered around it and bowed down to my sheaf, right? Because he's saying I was in the wheat field, basically, and my wheat shot up, and it was sticking straight up. But all your other wheat that was around me, all the other wheat had bent down on my wheat. And guess what? His brothers answered and said to him, are you indeed the reign over us? See, people have understand when you are out here, you won't understand farming, then you won't understand what he's just said. When you won't understand gathering wheat, you ain't gonna understand nothing he just said. He said, so what? You saying we gonna reign over you? Because they understood farming terms. They were like, so what? Because you saying because the mature wheat bow down, you know, when we get the humble wheat, they bow their face, bow down, and you eat your wheat sticking straight up, right? So you saying we gonna bow to you? Are you indeed the rule over us? So they hated him even the more for his dreams and for his words. And amazing, they understood his dream too. Let me guess, they were in fantasy world. You know, they went to sleep. And he said, man, I saw my sheaf was above your sheaf, and everybody else bowed, the other sheaves bowed down to my sheaf. We talking about, right? They understood his dream too. And guess what? Then he dreamed another dream, and he told it to his brothers and said, behold, I have dreamed another dream. Behold, the sun, the Shamash, the moon, the greater light, the Shamash, the moon, the lesser light, and the 11 stars were bowing down to me. Which, you know, it's 10 stars, right? Because they put 11, but it's really 10. Right? Because it's Benjamin, right? He said, what? Yeah, because they don't understand that either. But it says right here, and the 11 stars bowed down to me. But when he told it to his father and to his brothers, his father rebuked him, said to him, what is this dream that you have dreamed? Shall I, the Shamash, your mother, the lesser light, the two great lights. He talking about two great lights. Shall I, your mother, and your brothers indeed come down and bow ourselves to the ground before you? Why? Because we just talking about. I said Watchman over the house of Yashua. That's how you know they're both male and female. To bring light on the earth. Why? Because they that do wicked deeds hate the light. Neither come to the light lest their deeds be reproved. Why? Because you got two great lights. The greater light to rule the day and the lesser light to rule the night. And he made in the Kukar. And then what it says, and his brothers were jealous of him. Uh-oh. You know what happens when people get jealous of you? You know what that works with? The spirits of sleep, the ruach of sleep. It works with this ruach of sleep. It works with it. It's the spirit of deceit. But his father kept the saying in his mind. He's like, I kept that word. You know how people speak your word? He said, no, speak these words when you sit in the house, walk by the way, when you lie down, you rise up. And you know what happens when you do that? I'm going to keep that, what you just said. I'm gonna think about what you just said, son. No, I'm going to think about what you just said, Kukab, star. That's literally what he said. Right, and that's important. These are all important, right? Right, going back to the book of Jeremiah 6:17, Jeremiah 6:17. Jeremiah 6:17. It says, I set watchmen over you, saying, pay attention to the sound of the teru. Right, because everybody needs to pay attention. Why? He said, I said watchmen over you to pay attention, but they said we will not pay attention. His father did though. His father lied. You see you set, or you see your code like. I'll keep that in my head, right? I paid attention. The other people, they got jealous and envious, which means they weren't paying attention to what he said. That's why he said you're gonna find yourself in the kingdom with Abraham, Isaac, and your code, and you yourselves cast in outer darkness. You mean your light gonna go out? Because your code kept that in his saying in his head, his mind. He's like, I'm gonna keep that. But they said, we will not pay attention. Therefore, hear, O nations, and know, O congregation, what will happen to them. Hear, O earth, behold, I am bringing disaster upon this people, the fruit of their devices, because they have not paid attention to my words. This is the whole point. They have not paid attention to my words. And as for my law, they have rejected it. Who are the people who reject Yahuwah's law today? His Torah. You know, all the things you read in the statutes and judgments, who are those people? It could be Yashua and Yehuda. It could be other people too as well, who claim to believe in Yahushua Mashiach. What use to me is frankincense that comes from sheepah? Like, man, what in the world I need some frankincense for? There's a reason why you need some frankincense. You need it for that bread you be offering to Yahuwah. You gotta sprinkle some of it on top of it. He's saying, what use to me is this frankincense that comes from Sheba, right? You gotta come from a special place, that special place. And sweet cane from a distant land. He's like, man, what's the point of getting all this stuff? Some sweet cane. You know what sweet cane? That's for when you try to make things sweet. Right? That sweet bread. Your burnt offerings are not acceptable. Uh-oh. Yahuwah don't want nothing to do with your stuff. Get that stuff out my face. Nor your sacrifices is pleasing to me. Therefore, thus says Yahuwah, behold, I will lay before you this people stumbling blocks against which they shall stumble. Fathers and sons together. Now you see why you got to pay attention to the sound of the teru. I said watchmen over you. Fathers and sons together, neighbor and friend shall perish. This is why you got to pay attention to what's being said. Why? Because this is not something you want to ignore, right? So that word for watchman is safa, right? Safa. It's 868:22. I said watchman over you. It means to lean forward. We talked about this before, but it says to peer in the distance. We're on the fourth day. We ain't even get to Pesach. You got to peer in the distance. What's coming ahead? Like, you got to see. Observe. You got to observe what's getting ready to happen. You got to await. It says, behold, to look up. All these things take place. He said, look up. You notice all these things going to take place. He said, I said, watchmen over you. Because you got to look up. Right? This is the book of Matthew chapter 27. Matthew chapter 27 and verse 1. Matthew chapter 27. He said, why is this important? It's important. It's 27:39. Actually, 27 and 35. It said, when they had crucified him, they divided his garments among them, casting lots. They sat down and kept watch over him there. I mean, he said, look up. Safa. Look up. You sat down and you looked up. Safa. I said, watchman over you. Look up. What are you telling you? Because you're supposed to be a watchman. You're supposed to look up. Why? And see the salvation of Yahuwah. Why? Because that's where he at. He right there in front of you. And then you know what they're doing? Let me show you what they're doing. And over his head, they put a charge against him. They speaking false accusations. Same thing. They put a charge against him. You know why? Because they speaking great and impure words against his greatness. As first Enoch wrote. Which read, this is Yahusha, the king of the Yahudim, the Malach of the Yahudim. Then the two robbers who were crucified him on the right hand on the left, and those who passed by derided him, wagging their heads, saying, you who destroyed the temple and rebuilt it in 3 days, save yourself. If you are the son of Elohim, come down from the cross. All these superpowers you say you got. All these things you can do. So you should be able to come down from there. You're the son of Elohim. But they weren't paying attention though. Fathers, sons, neighbors, and friends. They weren't paying attention. And guess what? Come down from the cross. So the chief priests and the scribes and the elders mocked him, saying, he saved others, he cannot save himself. He is the Malach of the Yashra. Let him come down from the cross, and we will believe in him. He trusts in Elohim. Let him deliver him now, if he will have him, if he desires him. That's why I said in these first 16 days, you need to desire only one thing. People say, what? People have no idea. You got to desire one thing. You got to desire one thing. And that's Yahuwah himself. Since you trust in Elohim, let him deliver you now if you're going to have him then. If you say, since you say you trust in him and you don't trust in me. That's why you think the elders and the chief priests and the scribes were saying that. Because I trust Yahuwah. That's the only reason he was saying that. For he said, I am the son of Elohim. And the robbers who were crucified with him also reviled him in the same way. Everybody doing the same thing. They all speak the same thing. There ain't no division among them at all. You know, I said speak the same thing. They all. Once people start doing that, everybody gonna speak the same thing. When you start slandering and making false charges and false accusations, everybody gonna do that. This is Jeremiah chapter 31. Jeremiah 31 and 6. Jeremiah 31 and 6. Jeremiah 31 and 6. It says, for there shall be a day when watchmen will call in the hill country of Ephraim, arise, let us go up to Sion, to Yahuwah our Elohim. For thus says Yahuwah, sing aloud with gladness for your code, raise shouts for the chief of the nations. You know what type of shouts they were raising for Yahushua Mashiach when he was on totality? He was right above them. They put false charges against him with loud shouts to the chief of the name. If you be the king of Yasharal, the king of Yahudim, come down from the cross. We'll believe in you, not even knowing. You know why? Because they was in fantasy world. It wasn't real for them. It was in fantasy world. Proclaim, give praise, and say, O Yahuwah, save your people. If he trusts in Elohim, let him save himself. Let him come down from the cross. He saved others, he cannot save himself. Save your people, right? The remnant of Yasharal. The remnant. Behold, I will bring them from the north country and gather them from the farthest parts of the east, among them the blind and the lame and the pregnant woman and she who is in labor together. A great company shall return here. So remember we talked about everybody, see, she got pregnant and now she get to go to Sion with the child. They ain't been tainted by nobody. Been messed up. Ain't giving birth to the child yet. But he said, I'm gonna bring you to Sion because you pregnant with a child. Ain't nobody know, and guess what? It ain't come out into this wicked world yet. So I gotta get you there quick. So that child can be taught by Yahuwah from birth to present. And guess what? With weeping they shall come. Why? And the pleas for mercy I will lead them back. Why he think Safin Yah got out of hell? He prayed and hit the ground. He said, Yahuwah, have mercy on my soul in the pocket of Safin Yah. Because he see now, I got devil on the inside of me. I got Satan. He said, Yahuwah, have mercy on me. He said, I found all my shortcomings written in the book. With weeping they shall come, and pleas for mercy I will lead them back. That's how I want Yahuwah to lead me. You got to plead for mercy. And I will make them walk by the brooks of water. In the straight path in which they shall not stumble. He's saying ain't gonna be no path, no straight path where you stumbling. People stumbling all over themselves. They Watchmen blind. His Safar are blind. They all greedy dogs. They can't never have enough. They can't satisfy their appetite. He said, I ain't talking about that straight path. For I am a father to Yasharal. He's talking about I'm a father to Yasharal, not you. And Apharim is my firstborn. Hear the word of Yahuwah, O nations, and declare it to the coastlands far away. Say, he who scattered Yasharal will gather them, and will keep him as a shepherd keeps his flock. Because they Watchmen are blind. He said, but I'm going to keep them as a shepherd keeps his own flock. But guess what happens? Going to the book of Bereshith, or actually Matthew chapter 5, verse 48. 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 Actually go to Matthew chapter 5, verse 46. Matthew chapter 5, verse 46. Matthew chapter 5, verse 46. For if you love those who love you, what reward do you have? What reward do you got? And guess what? Do not even the tax collectors do the same? And if you regret only your brothers and sisters, what more are you doing than others? Do not even the Goyim do the same? They do the same thing. You therefore must be perfect as your Father in Shamayim is perfect. What do you mean perfect? He said you got to be perfect, even as he perfect. Right, going to 6 and 1, first verse. Matthew 6 and 1. Beware of practicing your righteousness before other people in order to be seen by them. For then you will have no reward from your Father in Shamayim. So he said, my reward is with me, to give to everyone according to his what? His deeds. He said, I want a reward. Right? So this is the book of Matthew, or this is the book of Yasher. I should go to the book of, the book of Yasher. This is the book of Yasher. Book of Yasher, chapter 21. The book of Yasher, chapter 21, and verse 13. The book of Yasher, chapter 21, and verse 13. And when Yitzhak was 5 years old, he was sitting with Ishmael at the door of the tent, right? We say the door of the tent. That's the vestibule. You know the vestibule? Right between the portico before you go in, before you go right through the gate, before the tent meet. And guess what? He was right at the tent door. And Ishmael came to Yitzhak and seated himself opposite him. He sat right in there opposite him. And you know what he did? And he took the bow and drew it and put the arrow in it and intended to slay Yitzhak right there at the tent door. Right there at the vestibule. Right, we only 8 days away. We say, right, I ain't even get to go in. I ain't even get to the point where I need to get to. He said, man, you already at the tent door getting ready to kill him. He said, why he do that? This is the book of Bereshith, Genesis. This is the book of Genesis. This is the book of Genesis. Book of Genesis, chapter 4. Bereshit, chapter 4, and verse 1. Bereshit, Genesis, chapter 4, and verse 1. Now Adam, Kuah, knew his Isha, his wife, and she conceived and bore Cain, saying, I have gotten a man by the help of Yahuwah. But I got me a man. I got a son. By the help of Yahuwah, by the help of my husband. Who gives conception? You say. Why you think recalls you know what you recall this? She forgot about the Torah. She's like, man, I forgot what written. I forgot about Kuah. See, that's why you need. He said, man, you better look to Kuah. Because Kuah already showed you. I have gotten a man with the help of Yahuwah. Now, she would have did that, and guess what? She would have saved your code from a lot of trouble and arguments. If they would just recounted what was already written. But guess what? She didn't do that. And guess what? And again, she bore his brother Habal. Now, Habal was a keeper of sheep. And Cain was a worker of the ground. Right? This is why you can't understand these things. In the course of time, Cain brought to Yahuwah an offering of the fruit of the ground. And Abyb also brought the firstborn of his flock, their fat portions. And Yahuwah had regard unto Abyb and his offering, right? They brought something, right? That's all they did. They brought something and then they offered it, right? That's all they did. They brought something and they offered it. That's all they did, right? And guess what he did? And get what he said. And Abel also brought the firstborn of the flock and the fat portions. And Yahuwah had regard to Habal and his offering. But for Cain and his offering, he had no regard. And he was very angry. And his face fell. And Yahuwah said to Cain, why are you angry? And why has your face fallen? He said, why your countenance or your panim has now fallen and you look sad? Because people, you can look sad with your face. You see a child, they look sad in their face. Like, why you look so sad? If you do well, will you not be accepted? We just read it in Yeshayahu. He said, I'm going to reject all their offerings, they ain't going to be accepted. He said, what is frankincense and what is from Sheba? What is all that stuff I got to do? He said, man, your offerings ain't accepted. What I got to do that? He said, they don't even know. They don't even observe my Torah. What is frankincense from Sheba? What does that got to do with anything? Exactly, right? Exactly, right? He said, what does that got to do with anything? And guess what? And if you do not well, sin is crouching at the door. Oh, right at the vestibule. right at the ulu, right on the 8th day. You know how you get to the 8th day? It's gonna be right there. Sin gonna be right there. And you say, man, if you don't get this stuff out your tent before the 8th day, understand, it's gonna be right there at the door. You know what Yahushua gonna do? He gonna look at you at the door. He gonna be like, he gonna throw you out of water out the window. He said, man, you ain't clean. I can see you. It is desires for you, and you must rule over it. So you gotta take rulership. You gotta take control. And Cain spoke, because when Yahuwah's Torah, he's like, oh, so what do you want to do it? Okay. And its desires for you, you must rule over it. Cain spoke to Habal, his brother, and when they were in the field, Cain rose up against his brother and killed him. Oh, why? Because this stuff was accepted. Because you got accepted. You know, you ever got accepted to a college? You got a letter, and the other person didn't. Be like, man, I got accepted. I got my acceptance letter. Then the other person, I didn't get accepted to the same school you wanted to go to. And the other person gonna be like, so what, you better than me? You know how it is. What, you better than me now? Because you got accepted and I didn't. And I applied to the same school you did. He said, don't think that won't make you kill somebody. Yes, it will. Oh, so you know that much the bar and I don't? Oh, so your intellect surpasses my own and I'm the chief? So you telling me yours is more accepted than mine? You telling me they ain't gonna make you kill nobody? That's why you gotta get all this stuff out of your tent. Your Ahal, right? Ahel. And he killed him. Then Yahuwah said to Cain, where is your brother Abyb, or your sister? He said, I do not know. Am I my brother's keeper? I don't know. And Yahuwah said to him, what have you done? The voice of your brother's blood is crying from the ground, right? Going back to the book of Yasher, chapter 21, verse 13. Book of Yasher 21:13. And when Yitzhak was 5 years old, he was sitting with Ishmael at the tent, the door of the tent. And Ishmael came to Yitzhak and seated himself opposite him. And he took the bow and drew it and put the arrow in it and intended to slay Yitzhak. And Sarah saw the act which Ishmael desired to do to her son Yitzhak. And it grieved her exceedingly on the account of her son. And she sent for Abram and said to him, cast out this bondwoman and her son, for her son shall not be heir with my son, for thus did he seek to do unto him this day. He's like, he tried to kill my son. He's like, this child tried to kill my son today. Of course, it's a different translation, but the same different account. But it says right here, and Abraham hearkened to the voice of Sarah, and he rose up early in the morning and took 12 loaves and a bottle of water, which he gave to Hagar. He took 12 loaves and a bar of water to Hagar. How much is that? That's 13, right? So that's 12 loaves and a bottle of water for Hagar. That's 13. And guess what? And sent her away with her son. And sent her away with her son. So how do you know this is of Yahuwah? How do we know? How are we going to know this is of Yahuwah, right? How are we going to know? He sent it away with her son. And get what it says. Yeah. And sent her away with her son. And Hagar went with her son into the wilderness. And they dwelt in the wilderness of Paran. They say Ayol, they say a tent like. You know how you get Ayol out of your Ahel, your tent. Of Paran with the inhabitants of the wilderness. And Ishmael was an archer. And he dwelt in the wilderness a long time. And he and his mother afterward went into the land of Mizraim, and they dwelt there. And Hagar took a wife for her son from Mizraim, and her name was Meribah. Bitter. Her name meant bitter. And he got her from Mizraim. You know what happens when you get somebody from Mizraim? The Mizraim ain't like the Abyb women. What they don't need, they have a child before you even come to the stool. They don't need no help. That's what Mizraim women don't need from the women, Abyb women today. They don't want your help. They don't. And that's how you know you gotta get Ayol out of your tent. That's how you know you got some Mizraim inside of you when you don't need no help from no other Abyb woman. Yeah, that's how you know you got Mizraim on the inside of you. And the wife of Ishmael conceived and bare 4 sons and 2 daughters. And Ishmael and his mother and his wife and children afterward went and returned to the wilderness. And they made themselves tents in the wilderness, right? And guess what happens? In which they dwelt, and they continued to travel and then to rest monthly and yearly. So they traveling, they just like them coming out of Mizraim. This is how you know. This is how you know. And Elohim gave Ishmael flocks and herds and tents on the account of Abraham his father, and the man increased in cattle. He became rich. And Ishmael dwelt in the desert and in tents, traveling and resting for a long time. And he did not see the face of his father. He said he didn't even see the face of his father. He had nobody leading, guiding, or even instructing him in anything he was doing. And guess what? And Ishmael dwelt in the desert in tents, right? Verse 22. And then sometime after, Abraham said to Sarah, his wife, I will go see my son Ishmael, for I have a desire to see him, for I have not seen him for a long time. And Abraham rode upon one of his camels to the wilderness to seek his son Ishmael. And he heard that he was dwelling in the tents in the wilderness with all belonging to him. And Abraham went to the wilderness, and he reached the tent Ishmael by noon. noontime, 6th hour of the day. And it says, and he asked after Ishmael and found the wife of Ishmael sitting in the tent with her children, and Ishmael, her husband, and his mother were not with him. Right, so there was nobody else there. So he got a chance to experience her by himself. And guess what? And Abraham asked the wife of Ishmael, saying, where has Ishmael gone? And she said, he has gone in the field to hunt. And Abraham was still mounted upon the camel, for he would not get off the ground, as he had sworn to his wife Sarah, that he will not get off the camel. And Abraham said to Ishmael's wife, my daughter, give me a little water that I may drink, for I am fatigued from the journey. And Ishmael's wife answered and said to Abraham, we have neither water nor bread. And she continued sitting in the tent and did not notice Abraham, neither did she ask him who he was. He's like, man, we ain't got nothing in here. We ain't got no water, we ain't got no food, we ain't got nothing. And she didn't even notice it, didn't even pay attention to him. And guess what? But she was beating her children in the tent, and she was cursing them. You mean Qahalath? Qahalath? And she also cursed her husband Ishmael, Qahalath, and reproached him. She reproached him. And guess what? And Abraham heard the words of Ishmael's wife to her children and was very angry and displeased. He said he was very angry and displeased by the things she was saying out of her vestibule, out of her mouth. Because she was speaking great words against against Abraham and his greatness. And my son, she was speaking great words, and she was saying things that she should not say. And he was there watching. And he was very angry. Right? So why would he be angry? Right? So this is the book of Matthew. This is the book of Matthew. Actually, go to the book of Yochanan, chapter 5. John, chapter 5, and verse 19. John, chapter 5, verse 19. So Yahushua said to them, truly, truly, I say to you, the Son can do nothing of his own accord, but only what he sees the Father doing. Abraham was very angry too. He was upset. For whatsoever the Father does, the Son does likewise. He said that you were talking about Ishmael and his children. For the Father loves the Son and shows him all that he himself is doing. And greater works than these will he show him, so that you may marvel. You know why some people marvel? People are marveling because they're in fantasy world. For as the Father raises the dead and gives life, so also the Son gives life to whom he will. The Father judges no one. He said, man, Abraham was sitting on this thing. He got real angry though after he seen all that. But that's what he said. But has given all judgment to the Son. Right, going back to the book of Yashar. Book of Yashar in verse 28. But she was beating her children in the tent, and she was cursing Qahalath, them, and she also cursed her husband Ishmael and reproached him. And Abraham heard the words of Ishmael's wife and her children, and he was very angry and displeased. And Abraham called the woman to come out to him at the tent. And the woman came out and stood opposite to Abraham, for Abraham was still mounted on his camel. And Abraham said to Ishmael's wife, you wicked woman, what you do that for? Why are you talking to your children like that? No, he didn't say that. And Abraham said to Ishmael, his wife, why, when thy husband Ishmael returneth home, say these words to him. A very old man from the land of the Philistines came hither to seek thee, and thus was his appearance and figure. I did not ask him who he was, and seeing thou wast not here, he spoke unto me and said, why when Ishmael thy husband returneth, tell him thus, did this man say, when thou comest home, put away this nail of this tent, which thou hast placed here, and place another nail in its stead. And Abraham finished his instructions to the woman, and turned and went off on the camel homeward. Going back to Yuchanan chapter 5, verse 22. Yuchanan chapter 5, verse 22. For the father judges no one, but he has given all judgment to the son. That's what Abraham just did. That all may honor the son, just as they honor the father. Because she didn't give no honor to Abraham, the father. She dishonored the father. And when she dishonored him, she dishonored the sons. And when you dishonor the son, you dishonor the father. That's why she was cursing her children and saying all things, and she was honoring the father of her children. And then he says, you know what? He said, put this nail away. Because that's what a woman's supposed to be, a tent, a nail peg in the ground for the tent, the household, to stay stabilized. You're supposed to be a tent peg in the ground to keep the house stabilized. Why? Because that's why he says, wives, submit yourself to your husband. Because if you don't keep the house stabilized, then he's like, that all may honor the son and honor the father. Whosoever does not honor the son, that's why she was cursing her children, does not honor the father who sent him. Truly, truly, I say to you, whoever hears my word and believes him who sent me has eternal life. Because the father sent the son. But if you dishonor the sons, how are you going to say the father sent the sons when you dishonor your own sons and your own children? How are you going to say the father sent the son when you dishonor the father by not doing what he says? And she did give honor to the father of Ishmael by doing what he said. Just tell this parable. And guess what? It'll give my son signal to do what he needs to do to you. And guess what? Truly, truly, I say to you, whoever hears my word and believes him who sent me has eternal life. He does not come into judgment, but has passed from death to life. He said he passed from death to life. So how you pass from death to life? Going back to the book of Yasher. Book of Yasher, verse 31. Actually going to verse 33, 32. Actually 33. Book of Yasher 21, 33. And after that, Ishmael came from the chase, he and his mother, and returned to the tent. And his wife spoke these words to him. A very old man from the land of the Philistines came to seek thee, and thus was his appearance and figure. And I did not ask him who he was. And seeing that thou wast not at home, he said to me, when thy husband cometh home, tell him, thus saith the old man, put away the nail of the tent which thou hast placed here, and place another nail in its stead. Why? Because that's the sixth letter of the alphabet. Because Abraham taught his children, because he was taught by Noah, and he was taught by Malak Sadiq, but some say Shem. And he was taught the actual Debar in the Abyb language, because that's what he was in Hebrew, Abyb. He could see that this was not a tent peg that should be here. You know, 6, 6, 6, 6. Right? He knew that this person shouldn't be in the house. And guess what? And Ishmael heard the words of his wife, and he knew that it was his father. Why? Because of the bar that he spoke. And the words that she repeated, the words that came from his father, by the words that he spoke. And his wife, and that his wife did not honor him by the words that she spoke. Because you're going to be judged by every idle word that you say out of your mouth on the great day of judgment. Because he committed all judgment to the son. That's why he said you speak harsh and impure words against his greatness. And you utter strange things out of your mouth. That's why he said that. And Ishmael understood his father's words that he had spoken to his wife, and Ishmael hearkened to the voice of his father, and Ishmael cast off the woman, and she went away. And Ishmael afterward went to the land of Canaan and took another wife, and he brought her to his tent in the place where he had then dwelt. Because he just went from death to life. For the wages of sin is death. because you were cursing Qahalath, his children. That's death. He said, you know what? I put away death and I went to life. Because you know what Kuah's name meant? Kuah's name meant mother of all living. Her name meant life, Eve. And that's what she's supposed to bring to the house, life. Because he said, speak these words. Why? These words I speak unto you, they are ruach and they are life. That's why he was trying to save Ishmael's life. Because you dishonor the father, you dishonor the sons, you dishonor the father, and that woman will kill you. And it says right here, this is Isaiah going back to Yukonon chapter 5, verse 25. Yukonon 5:25. Truly I say to you, an hour is coming, and now is here, when the dead will hear the voice of the Son of Elohim, and those who hear will live. What do you think Ishmael just did right there? Because if you understand the pattern and understand, what do you mean the sheep gonna bow down? So you talking about we're gonna rule? If you don't understand farming terms, if you don't understand tent life, if you don't understand Ayul, if you don't understand Ahal, and understand the tent life and removing wickedness out of your tent. That's what Ishmael just did. He removed wickedness from his tent. And these are all a part of this understanding. And it says, truly I say to you, an hour is coming, and now is here, when the dead will hear the voice of the Son of Elohim, and those who hear will live. For as the Father has life in himself, so he has granted the Son to have life in himself. Why do you think Abraham had life in himself, and he granted his son, hey man, you might want to get some life. Get you a life. And he has given him authority to execute judgment because he is the son of Elohim. He said, now you see why. He committed all judgment to the son. You make that decision, son, based upon what I said. And guess what? Do not marvel at this, for an hour is coming when all who are in the tombs will hear his voice and come out, and those who have done good to the resurrection of life, and those who have done evil to the resurrection of judgment. You're going to be judged by every outer word that comes out of your mouth. Right, this is the book of Bamidbar, Numbers chapter 14 and verse 13. Numbers chapter 14 and verse 13. Numbers 14 and 13. Numbers 14 and 13. But Achad said to Yahuwah, then the Mizraim will hear, for you brought up this people in your might from among them, and they will tell the inhabitants of this land. They're going to talk about you. They have heard that you, O Yahuwah, are in the midst of this people. For you, O Yahuwah, are seen face to face. And your cloud stands over them, and you go before them in a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. He had two great lights. One to rule the day and one to rule the night. But if one to rule in the night cursing your children, then understand. You ain't got a pillar of fire by night. That person's lamp done went out. And she dishonoring you and your children, your lamp done went out. He said, you're a foolish virgin. He said, your lamp done went out. Because you're supposed to be Gadol Ma'or. You're supposed to be a watchman over the house of Yasharal. You're supposed to be a watchwoman. A watch. Greater light. Lesser light. Now, if you kill this people as one man, because that's what happens to the whole household, not just one individual person, the whole household as one man. Then the nations will hear, the nations who heard your fame will say, it is because Yahuwah was not able to bring this people into the land that he swore to give them to them, that he has killed them in the wilderness. And when they're in the wilderness, Ishmael too. Matter of fact, we all in the Ayol tent. We are in Ayol in the midbar. And guess what? You want to take them out. They're gonna hear your fame in the wilderness now. They're gonna talk about you. He said, for my name's sake, I defer my anger. Because understand, he said, you've been rebellion just like Yeshayahu from the beginning. You've been rebels from the beginning. And guess what? It is because Yahuwah was not able to bring this people into the land of Mizraim, land that he swore to them that he has killed them in the wilderness. And now, please, let the power of Yahuwah be great as you have promised. Saying Yahuwah is slow to anger. Now you see why. Please, let the promise. Because you know how Yahuwah is. Please, be great. Be great as you have promised. Yeah, please be great like you is, right? You real great. Saying Yahuwah is slow to anger. Please be slow to anger. And abounding in steadfast love. Please show your love. Forgiving iniquity. Please forgive us in our transgression. But he by no means clear the guilty. Right? Visiting iniquity upon the fathers on the children. Now you see why Abraham was like, no. No. To the third and fourth generation, Abraham was like, no. No more. Please pardon the iniquity of this people. He said, why you need that? Because you're going to need somebody to do that for you. Pray. Why? Because you know why you need to pray? If your prayer is hindered, how you going to pray? How anybody, think about it. You're going to get destruction. That's what's going to happen to you. Please pardon the iniquity of this people according to the greatness of your steadfast love, just as you have forgiven this people from Mizraim until now. And then what happened to them? And they came out of Mizraim. They left Mizraim in the wilderness in the tent. They were in Mizraim. He took a wife, though, from Mizraim. And amazingly, you think the children of Yasharal ain't take no wives from Mizraim and brought them out with them in the wilderness? Then Yahuwah said, I have pardoned according to your word. To who word? Because he said, according to your word, not their words. But truly, as I live, and as all the earth shall be filled with the kabod of Yahuwah, none of the men who have seen my kabod and my signs that I did in Mizraim and in the wilderness, and yet put me to the test these 10 times. You tried me 10 times. You know how you ever have somebody try you 10 times? So you gonna test me 10 times? You know how many times he said, how many times can you get cursed? Qahalath. He said, man, you trying me 10 times. Y'all slandering me 10 times. Y'all running, mumbling, grumbling, complaining. You talking about me. How many times is that? That's 7 times. Okay, you sure you want to go to 10? Now you hit my yard. Once you hit my yard, my right hand, then I have to do something with my yard. When I hit my yard raise up, it's over for you. I'm going to hit you really hard. Right? And I ain't talking about physically. Right? And it says, 10 times and have not obeyed my voice. Shall see the land that I swore to give to their fathers, and none of those who despise me shall see it. Now you see why Yahusha said he was despised and rejected my men. A man acquainted with grief, a man of sorrows. It was as men would hide their faces from. Who do you think you're despising when you do that? You're despising Yahushua Mashiach. You're despising him. But guess what he said? And none of those who despise me shall see it, but my servant Caleb, because he will have a different ruach. He said, you got a different spirit. What type of spirit you got? And have followed me fully. He's like, man, this person ain't no joke. He do this thing fully. For some reason, you people scared of giants. You scared of Raphaim and Bashan. You scared of the Zamzums. You scared of the Anakim. Matter of fact, you scared of all these things that this world tries to throw in your face. They're gonna take away from you because if you keep my word fully, you afraid of that. So therefore, I will bring into the land with which he went, and he and his descendants shall possess it. Now, this is all a part of it. I ain't gonna go that far, but here we go. Going to the book of Abyb, chapter 19, verse 1. Job, chapter 19, verse 1. Job chapter 19, verse 1. Ayu, Job chapter 19. Job chapter 19 and verse 1. Job chapter 19 and verse 1. Then Ayu answered and said, how long will you torment me and break me in pieces with words? With your Qahalath. Why? Because these words, you break people into pieces. That stuff hurt. You say, yeah, dude. That's why as managers, you got to understand this. Just like Ishmael had to understand the parable that his father spoke. You got to understand this as managers, you watchmen over the house, you watchmen. Watchwoman. Greater light, lesser light. You got to understand all these attributes. And you got to rule your own body, your own house, your own words that you speak. And Eve answered and said, how long will you torment me to break me into pieces with words? This stuff hurt. They say sticks and stone will break your bone, but words will never hurt you. That's what they gave you in the nursery rhyme from the sorcerer magician that they told you that stuff when you were young, and they sowed that seed in your head. And you know what they say? That stuff don't. Yeah. You know they try to say you like Yasharal in the wilderness who threw sticks and stones at people and killed people. And the words the Nabi'im spoke didn't hurt them. That's the only reason they spoke that to you. It's called reverse psychology. But the words do hurt. And break me into pieces with your words. These 10 times you have cast reproach on me. That's what happens. When you start to say things out of your mouth, your household starts to say things out of their mouth to you. You literally putting reproach on the man. You literally putting reproach on him. And when you go talk about me to other people, you put reproach on me. And when you don't do what you're supposed to and hearken to the words of the head of the household, you put reproach on the husband. Matter of fact, you put a reproach on the whole household. And they're going to talk about me the same way Yahuwah's like, you know your greatness, and you know what they're going to do? They're going to talk about you. They say you failed to do it. You failed to do what you say you're going to do. And you know what they're going to do? They're going to talk about you. He's like, man, please show your steadfast love. Please show your forgiveness. Please show your greatness. Why? Because these are all a part of the forgiveness aspects of a man, how he has to be inside of a household, how a Isha has to be toward her children, as a Isha has to be. You got to be so forgiving. Not like the woman in the book of Yasha. When the children were driving her insane, she would start cursing them. He's like, no, you don't need to do that. You need to show your steadfast love and forgiveness, right? That stuff is not going to bring any type of life to your house. The only thing it's going to do is bring death. And the only thing them children are going to do after they leave, after they hear your cursing, is they're going to go curse somebody else. Because you know they repeat the words you say out of your mouth. He said, why children repeat the same words of their parents? All you got to do is listen to what they say. You be like, yo, your parents said that in the house. Your mother said that to you. I didn't say that to you. That's how a father knows if a mother says something to the children and the children repeat it back. I didn't say that to you. I never taught that to you. Who taught that to you? Or somebody else came in. Satan in the camp. How you learn that? Satan must be in the camp. Or he must be on somewhere. He's somewhere in here. But there's no way in the world you should be saying that in here. The very same thing when it comes to an $8 community or anything. These 10 times you have cast reproach upon me. And you are not ashamed to wrong me. That's wrong. This is all the Eliul you got to get out of your tent. This is all the cleansing process from first day to the 16th day. He said, you wronged me. And even if it be true that I have erred, you know that's what happens. If it be true, even though it may be true that I have erred, you know what he says? My error remains with myself and has nothing to do with you. He said it remains with myself, not with you. And guess what? If indeed you magnify yourselves against me, because that's the only thing a person is doing. He said, I erred. This with me. It ain't got nothing to do with you. But you now magnifying yourself against me now. But guess what? and make my disgrace an argument against me. You say, it's a disgrace for me. I already know that. But now you're creating an argument against me. You know what he says? Know then that Elohim has put me in the wrong and closed his net about me. Just understand, Yahuwah closed his net around me. But guess what? Behold, I cry out violence, but I am not answered. He said, now I cry out violence done to me by people coming against me. And he says, but I got no answer from Yahuwah. Why? Because his prayers are hindered now. Because his prayers are hindered. This as managers, you got to know this. Your prayers are hindered. And guess what? I call for help, and there is no justice, no judgment. His prayers are hindered. He has walled up my way so that I cannot pass. He stopped my movement path. Because your prayers are hindered. And he has set darkness upon my path. I can't even see. Because he said if you were blind, you have no guilt. But being that you say you see, your guilt remains. And he has stripped from me my kabod and taken the crown from my head. He took it away. He breaks me down on every side, and I am gone. And my hope has pulled up like a tree. He pulled me up by the roots. He has kindled his wrath against me and counts me his adversary. His troops come together. They have cast their siege rampant against me and encamped around my tent. This is why you got to remove Ayol out of your tent. You got to remove the wickedness out of your tent. This is why. Because then all the people start circling around you and you become an adversary of Yahuwah. You say, why Yahuwah? Why you think Yahushua on the cross said, Yahuwah, my Elohim, why hast thou forsaken me? Because his prayers were hindered. Because of the people. His people, his bride, his household, Yasharal and Yehuda. They were exalting themselves against him, and they were cursing him, and they were magnifying themselves against him, while he was up on the totality being a safar for them, a watchman. And guess what? And he has kindled his wrath against me and counts me his adversary. His troops come on together, and they cast up a siege rampant against me and encamp around my tent. Why do you think they was all around him right there? In Matthew 27, the elders, the chief priests, and the scribes, everybody was talking about it. You save yourself. You save others. You can't save yourself. You provided financial help for everybody else. You can't do it for yourself. That's what Abyb did. You in this situation, look at you. You did all that help all those other people, but you can't help yourself. He has put my brothers far from me, and those who knew me wholly estranged from me. My relatives have failed me. My close friends have forgotten me. And guess what? The guests in my house and my maid servants count me as a stranger. I have become a foreigner in their eyes. He said, but even though you're a foreigner, to those who do that, he said, let not the foreigners say, I am cast away. Let not the foreigners say that I have no part in this. Please don't say that. I call my servants, but he gives me no answer. Nobody answers me. I must plead with him with my mouth for mercy. My breath is strange to my wife, my Nysn, and I am a stench to the children of my own mother. Even young children despise me, and all my intimate friends abhor me, and those who I love have turned against me. That's why he told that woman. That's why Abraham told him to get that woman out of his house, because he was cursing his children. So you think, and then she was cursing their father in front of their children. And you think, what do you think them children gonna say to their father when they hear her mother cursing her father in front of their children? Even young children will despise me. My bones stick to my skin and my flesh, and I have escaped by the skin of my teeth. All right, going skipping over, almost finished. We almost finished. Going to the book of Bereshit, chapter 31. Bereshit, chapter 31 and verse 7. Bereshit, Genesis, chapter 31 and verse 7. Bereshit, Genesis, chapter 31 and verse 7. Genesis, chapter 31 verse 7. Going to 31 and 6. 31 and 6. You know I have served your father with all my strength. I did it. Yet your father has cheated me and changed my wages 10 times. He said, man, Abyb said they cast their mouths on me and brought reproach on me. He did it 10 times. He said, y'all switched up on me 10 times. You switched up on me. That's what Yahuwah said. He said, hey, man, they tested me these 10 times. You switched up on me 10 times. Think about it. Somebody changed their personality on you 10 times in a row. You be like, so what are you, a schizo? What are you, like, spirit, ruach of sleep? Because it's like eight of them. I know you got 8 of those. And then you got the other 2. Because that's the only reason. Ruach of sleep. But Elohim did not permit him to harm me. He said, you ain't get to touch me. But some people got a chance to harm you. After they done switched up 10 times, they done cast a reproach at you 10 times. Some people had a chance to harm you. You know why they had a chance to harm you? Because Yahuwah let them do it. He let them do it. He let it penetrate. He let them get that close, and he let it happen. Why? If he said, the spotted shall be your wages, then all your flocks bore spotted. And if he said, the stripe be your wages, then all the flocks bore strip. Thus Elohim has taken away the livestock of your father and given them to me. That's why he told Ishmael and said, get rid of the tent peg and put another in her place. He took it away from her. He took away the livestock of your father and he given them to me. He took away, I got rid of you and I put you a person in your place. Why? Because this is all a part of it, right? Going to this is the Codex Sinaiticus. This is Codex Sinaiticus. This is Codex Sinaiticus, Shepherd 71. Codex Sinaiticus, Shepherd 71. And so when I saw them so lashed with whips and vexed, I was sorry for their sake, because they were so tortured and had no rest at all. And I say to the shepherd who was speaking with me, Sir, who is this shepherd? Who is this so hard-hearted and severe, and has no compassion at all for these sheep? This, said he, is the Malach of punishment. And he is the one of the just Malachim and presides over punishment. So he receiveth those who wander away from Elohim and walk after their lusts and deceits in this life, and punish them as they deserve with fearful and various punishments. Why? Because when your prayers get hindered, your household is out of erratic, and your prayers get hindered, you get punished. And it says, and I would fain learn, sir, say I, of what sort are these various punishments? Listen, saith he, the various tortures and punishments are tortures belonging to the present life. For some are punished with losses, and others with want, and others with diverse maladies, and others with every kind of unsettlement, and others with insults. What Abyb, Job. He said, y'all exalt and magnify yourself against me. If I am in error, then let it be myself. But don't magnify yourself against me because I'm in error. He said, don't do that. He said, keep your mouth closed. Why? Because you're going to be judged by every idle word you say out of your mouth. If I'm not in error, then you're in trouble. Right? It says, and others with insults and unworthy, from unworthy persons, and with suffering in many other respects. For many, being unsettled in their plans, how many say? He said, many are the plans of man, but the plans of Yahuwah are going to stand. As the book of Psalms says, right? It says, many are unsettled in their plans, set their hand to many things, right? So you do a lot of stuff, right? I'm a hustler. You know, I do so many things, right? I'm trying to provide and do all these things, right? And nothing ever goes forward with them. Nothing ever works. This is how you know the malaki of punishment is over your life. And then he says, and then they say that they do not prosper in their doings, and it does not enter in their hearts that they have done evil deeds, and they blame Yahuwah. They start blaming Yahuwah for the things that they do in their evil deeds, with their mouths and their yad and their kaf in their hands. And where they go, the regard. They don't think about the evil deeds that you do and things you see with your eyes. Right? These are all a part of the things that, but then when somebody do error, he say, okay, you're doing it, but then you start to do extra, you add more sin on top of sin by Qahalath and Qahalath. He said, if I'm in error, let it be to me. This is why Dawid's household still prospered a little bit, even after he did all of that. Because you didn't hear nobody in the house talking about something, yeah, you did this and that. They weren't doing that. You know why? Because they understood. Keep your mouth closed when somebody in error. Because this is an evil time. You know how it talks about? He said the prudent gonna keep silent in that time, for it is an evil time. You need to be quiet even more. You know how it says? You in error, you did something wrong, oh, you need to be real quiet. The whole household need to be quiet. You don't even hear a pin drop. Nobody need to be saying nothing until somebody figure out, until Yahuwah reveal what he gonna do and what's going on. Why? Because that's the whole point. That's how managers gotta be. You gotta be like, man, we in error. He's like, okay. Nobody say nothing. Because the more you say, you're just gonna add to it. Because you don't know. And it says, and when then they are afflicted of every kind of affliction, then they are delivered over to me. For what? For good instruction. Because you wrong. Be quiet. So who do you think? Why do you think he does that? Right? This is the book of Exodus. This book of Exodus, chapter 23. People would be like, "What's going on?" Because this is a part of a pattern that people need to understand. Sorry. It's a pattern that people need to understand. Yeah, so we put Exodus 23, Exodus chapter 23, and Exodus Shemuth chapter 23, and Exodus chapter 23 and verse 19. Exodus 23, 19. Exodus chapter 23 and 19. And it says, the best of the first fruit of your ground you shall bring into the house of Yahuwah, your Elohim, and you shall not boil your young goat. Right, you're skipping over. Verse 20. Behold, I send a malak before you to guard you in the way, and bring you to the place I have prepared. Pay a careful attention to him and obey his voice. Right, we just read, I said, Watchman over you. He said, make sure you pay real close attention. A safar. I think Yahushua was above them and they didn't pay no attention. Safa. We ain't gonna listen to nothing you say. You be the son of Elohim, come down from the cross. We'll believe in you then. Safa. He said that to keep you in the way, pay careful attention and obey his voice. Do not rebel against him, because you've been a rebellion from the beginning. For he will not pardon your transgression. Who's the person that pardons your sin? Who the one gadol and great that does all of that? You know, the one you plead to for mercy. For my name is in him. But if you carefully obey his voice and do all that I say, then I will be an enemy to your enemies and adversary to your adversaries. So all the people that are Qahalath against you, he lied. And when Mamalak goes before you and brings you to the land of Amorites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Canaanites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites, and I blot them out, you shall not bow down to their gods, nor serve them, nor do as they do. Remember, the story only real to those who do it. Because you ain't got no Malachi if you don't believe what's written. You ain't got no Malachi. But you shall utterly overthrow them and break down their pillars into pieces, right? And that's why they were saying, you bring a reproach unto me. You breaking me into pieces. Isn't that what Job said? If I am in error, if I'm worshiping other gods, if I'm doing other things, then please, let it be with myself. But if not, because that's what you're supposed to do to the idol. You're supposed to break him into pieces. He's like, you saying these things, you're trying to break me into pieces. You saying I'm like these people, I'll do what they do. And if I'm in error, let me be in error. But if I'm not, right, this is going back to Codex, we almost finished. This is Codex Sinaiticus 71, Shepherd 71, verse 13. And it says, when then they are afflicted of every kind of affliction, then they are delivered over to me for good instructions, and are strengthened in the Amunah of Yahuwah, and serve Yahuwah with a pure heart the remaining days of their life. But if they repent, the evil works which they have done rise up in their hearts. Why? Because that's what happens when you realize your guilt, and you get good instruction. Then the evil start to rise up inside of you. It's just like pimples on your face. It's just like contaminants that come from the body when you eat herbs. It's like the adultery test. Your star rots. That's what we getting ready to go up on. People say, why? That's what Pesach is, the adultery test. People don't even know it. You eat that, you're gonna show everything inside of you. You're gonna find out where you at. The adultery test is coming. Because Yahushua want to know, are you still a virgin? As often as you do this, you remember me, because I'm your husband. You know, the bride adorned for her husband. You're going to remember me. And he's going to see if you still are a virgin. Or you ain't committing no adultery. No matter where it may be at. And when they are afflicted with every kind of affliction, then they are delivered over to me for good instruction, and are strengthened in the Amunah of Yahuwah, and serve Yahuwah with a pure heart in the remaining days of their life. But if they repent, the evil works which they have done rise up in their hearts. And then they glorify Elohim, saying that he is a just judge. Because that's how you know. When you get the good instructions and the evil rise up, you be like, man, he was right. Yahuwah was right. It is that. Man, he a real good judge. I couldn't even see that. Man, you see this evil rising up? He's like, man, this actually is true. Then you start to perceive and you can see again. You're like, man, I can see that thing. And that they suffer justly, each according to his doings. So I told you, you gotta learn how to talk. True and righteous are your judgments. You see, you judge me and they see all the evil that rose up. He's like, that's absolutely true what he said. Now you see why he judged in the midst of the Elohims, the gods. Because he be breaking them gods into pieces. Is it not written in your Torah? I said, you are Elohim. He said, when I hit you, I'm going to break you into pieces. A broken and contrite heart, Yahuwah will not refuse. I'm going to break you into pieces with my reproach, right? My words. It says, and they will glorify Elohim, saying he is a just judge, and that they suffer justly, each according to his doings. So have you said that yet? He said, I suffered justly. For everything that I did, I suffered rightly. It's rightfully so that you lost things. It's rightfully so that you don't have things. It's rightfully so that you lose things. It's rightfully so. Because there's no point in you saying it ain't fair. There's no point. You suffer rightly, and Yahuwah is right. All his works are done in truth, right? And they serve Yahuwah thenceforth with a pure heart. That's how you know. That's how it's going to come out of you. You say, why? Because the good instruction came. And guess what? Now you get to serve Yahuwah with a pure heart. And are prosperous in all they're doing. So you want to prosper? He said, I want to prosper again. Okay. Then just admit that Yahuwah judge, he's a just judge, and everything he said about me for all the time he spoke to the bar to me is absolutely true. And it rose up inside of me as soon as he spoke it, and then guess what? It came out of me, and now guess what? Now I'm pure-hearted, and now I can prosper again. Receiving Yahuwah whatsoever things they may ask. So you can now ask Yahuwah now after you get the instructions on what you're doing wrong and the things inside of you. Then now you can ask Yahuwah again. Touch and agree. To touch and agree, it shall be done. But if you say if you never repent, then it's just a revolving cycle. Right? It's all a revolving cycle. Going to verse 72. Shepherd 72. I say unto him, Sir, declare unto me further in this matter. What self-indulgence and are deceived undergo torment during the same length of time as they live in self-indulgence and are deceived. And he said to me, they undergo torments for the same length of time. Then, sir, say I, they undergo very slight torments. For those who are living thus in self-indulgence and forget Elohim ought to have been tormented sevenfold. Sevenfold. The Sheba theme, right? We talk about this in the book of Leviticus chapter 26. He said, if you won't listen to me, this time I'm going to punish you sevenfold. And he said, if you won't listen to me again, I'm going to punish you sevenfold again. And guess what? He said to me, thou art foolish and comprehendest not the power of torment. Truly say I, for if I had comprehended it, I should not have asked thee to declare it to me. Listen, saith he, to the power of both, of self-indulgence and torment. The time of self-indulgence and deceit is 1 hour. But an hour of torment hath the power of 30 days. So how long you want to do this for? You talking about 1 hour of just doing something stupid is like 30 days of punishment. That's how your time sequence is totally different. It's like the burning bush. How come this bush not burning? Because time operates differently in that world when it comes to this world. It don't burn as fast in this world as it do in the other world. That's why we ain't consumed yet. Because the fire all over you. We surrounded by fire right now. But the only reason the fire hasn't consumed us is because time don't operate the same where we at right now. It says, and if then one live in self-indulgence and be deceived for 1 day and be tormented for 1 day, the day of torment is equivalent to a whole year. So think about that. That's a year sentence on a felony charge, right? So you think about that. For as many days then as a man lives in self-indulgence, for so many years is he tormented, thou seest then, and saith he that the time of self-indulgence and deceit is very short, but the time of punishment and torment is long. You say, why would we be talking about the ruach of deceit? because these are all a part of self-indulgence, right? We almost finished. This is a book. So self-indulgent. These are all things you need to know. Self-indulgence is an excessive or unrestrained gratification of one's own appetites. We just talked about in the ruach of sleep. You sick. These are all things you need to get out of your ayul. It says, on one's own appetites, desires. I told you you got to desire something. You only got to need to desire one thing. It means whims. These are all things you just desire off the rip, right? Anything you want. You know, Shaul said, all things are lawful, but all things ain't expedient. Those are whims. I could do a whole bunch of stuff, but the punishment is a year, 30 days for one thing. It involves prioritizing immediate pleasure or comfort over long-term discipline. Now you see why we practice all these things for 16 days, and you go to the 24th day, and you start to see why you can't go back to eating immediately. You gotta see why you have to go into counting, and you gotta go back to the cycle, get back to Kach Shabur, right? That's the first 3 months of the year, right? So you start to see where people are self-indulgent at, and if you don't do it, the muezzafit, and do it correctly, then guess what? It's like punishment for a year, 30 days. Think about it. Think about it. I'm not saying you can't do nothing. I'm just saying, like, certain things you can't do. Often leading to overspending, right? You know, I say, where you spend your money at? You don't need all that. No, you don't. No, you don't. Sufficient is a day. Did he say food and raiment? Whatsoever state I'm in, be content. Sufficient is a day. I don't need all that. 1 meal a day is good for me. I'm good. I don't need 15 meals, 10 meals, 5 meals, 150 meals, right? I don't need all that. I remember you used to go to the cafeteria on your card in college. They have like a certain amount of meals. But you don't need all the meals. You don't need 1 meal a day. But you got like 80 meals, right? Somebody spend them all in a week, right? Often leading to overspending, overeating, or laziness. See, these are still. That's why he that don't plow within autumn is what? He will seek out harvest and have nothing. Why? Because you ain't out there doing nothing. Laziness means, hey, you ain't plowed the field, you ain't planted no seed, you ain't did nothing in the field, you ain't went and plant no yard, you ain't put no beds up, you ain't did nothing, you ain't put no seeds in the ground, you ain't trying to work, you ain't trying to do nothing, you ain't trying to clean cook, you ain't trying to get nothing out of your house, your ayul out of your tent. You just lazy. And when you self-indulgent, understand. And you go take the cup, you go ahead and take Pesach, and you self-indulgent, you gonna understand. He said some of you are asleep. And Shaul told you. Some of them are asleep, some of you are weak, some have went to the next life. Because you're self-indulgent. That's why he said where selfish ambitions is, that's where every vile practice, right? And that's the whole point. But it says, comfort over a long discipline, often leading to overspending, overeating, and laziness. It is characterized by passive, self-centered, and often impulsive actions. Right? So these are all a part of it. Right? So it also says usage of self-indulgence, right? It says usage, right? Lifestyle, spending an entire day watching television or playing video games instead of working, right? Here you go. Eating expensive, unhealthy food, right? You know how people do. I mean, $150 hot dog. What in the world is wrong with you? Right? $300 hot. What in the world? That's absolutely insane. Unhealthy food or drinking excessive. I ain't talking about no vegan dog, but I don't know about paying $300 for that. That's crazy. Right? Eating inexpensive, unhealthy food or drinking excessively simply because you want to. That's why he said, when we gonna let's fill ourselves with drink and strong drink. He said everybody's all after their own game in Yeshayah 56, right? They ain't worried about the shabath, right? They all going after their own game. They all say, when we gonna bring our next cup of wine? When we gonna fill ourselves with strong drink? When we gonna go out? Job chapter 22. They worry about their gold and their silver. They worry about their gain, as Jeremiah chapter 6. They self-indulgent. He said punishment is like 30 days for those and above. You ain't thinking about Yahuwah in nothing. So therefore, he says, a year punishment. You'd be like, wow, these things be happening because of that. It says, finance, a spending spree, or buying luxury items on a credit card, which you cannot afford them, right? You can't afford that stuff. Constantly hitting the snooze button to avoid responsibilities. Everybody's done that in their life. A rambling, self-indulgent speech that focuses solely on the speaker's own thoughts without considering the audience. That means get to the dang point. What's the point? Your judgment is just, right? You have to acknowledge these things, right? Right. So you see that on YouTube. Get to the point. All that stuff you're talking about don't mean anything, right? Just tell me what did the bar say, right? This is the book of Psalm 69 and 7, Tahalim, Psalm 69 and 7, Psalms 69 and 7, Psalms 69 and 7, Psalms, Tahalim, 69 and 7, Psalm 69 and 7, Psalm 69 and 7. It says, for it is for your sake that I have borne reproach. That's why Yahushua said, reproach is in reproach you who it fell on me. So when they were doing all the reproach to Abyb, he said, it's going to all fall on me anyway, even my own error. So not only my error going to fall on me, but also the reproach that you are all a Qahalath and cursing my life is going to fall on me as well. Because not even knowing that the very things that you're saying, I got a better reproach of that too. Right, because the whole household is sinning. And guess what? It's for your sake I have borne reproach, that dishonor has covered my face. I have become a stranger to my brothers and an alien to my mother's sons. For the zeal of your house has consumed me. And the reproach of those who reproach you, Yahuwah, have fallen on me. That's why I say you're going to be judged by every word that comes out of your mouth. But it's all going to fall on one person. It's going to fall on Yahushua, or it's going to, Yahushua said, you crucify Yahuwah fresh and bring him to open shame. He said, I already brought a reproach. Now it's going to fall on your household and your husband, or your mother. When the children curse outside of the home, it's going to fall on your mother and their father. It's going to fall on the whole household. Yahushua said, I already brought reproach. Just understand it's going to fall on you. It's going to fall on you. And you got to understand that as managers. It's going to fall on you. When I wept and humbled my soul with fasting, and that's what you're going to have to do. When that happens, you're going to have to do that. It became my reproach. You see, that's what people don't want to do. When their household, everybody in their household is cursing Qahalath, saying things they don't need to be doing things that's around. He said, man, I ain't bearing a reproach. I ain't finna fast and pray or nothing and bear it. How you accept the reproach to the whole household and bear all of the stuff, the wickedness that they do? How do you bear all of that? This is why this first month is very important. How are you going to bear all that, Ish? When I wept and humbled my soul with fasting, it became my reproach. He said, now you take it on. You ain't taking it on yet. You ain't fasted yet. In order for the household, you to take on the whole household and their wickedness and the evil that they done, you gotta fast to take it on. You be like, man, now I done took it on now. When I made sackcloth my clothing, I became a byword to them. Now you see why Job like, man, if it's my error, let it be myself. But why are you trying to break me into pieces? I am the talk of those who sit in the gate. Why do you think they was talking about Yahushua in the totality? And drunkards make song about me. You know, self-indulgence people. You know, them self-indulgence people. You know, those self-indulgent people who don't want to do anything. Who lazy. Now, I ain't talking about with physical reality. Because you can't be lazy in physical reality, get all that strong drink and do all those things you do. Get your gold and your silver. You can't be lazy in the physical reality. You lazy in the other world. You lazy in your inward man. You lazy in your ruach man. You lazy. And therefore, I'm the talk of those who sit at the gate, and drunkards make songs about me. Songs about me. Why? Because you now making songs about me. You lazy in your ruach, man. Why you think people make songs about people? And kabod them instead of Yahuwah. But as for me, my prayer is to you. So in order for your prayer to even, you know how I say your prayers are hindered? The only reason your prayers are hindered because you ain't fast and taking on nobody's reproach. Because once they bear reproach and once they create all the reproach in the home, in the household, then you have to get on your knees and you have to fast in order to take on that reproach, in order for your prayers to be accepted. So your prayers won't be hindered anymore. Because they only hindered when you're full of food and self-indulgence. Once you get rid of it, and you see all of the evil that people do, everybody quiet, and you take on all that reproach, and then guess what happens after that? Then now your prayers are not hindered anymore. Your prayers are hindered as long as you still live your life after everybody. That's why I say everybody needs to stop what they're doing and just stop and be quiet. Why? Because when people start doing evil stuff, you need to get on the ground. You need to fast. You need to hit the ground and say, okay. Because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't. But as for me, my prayers to you, O Yahuwah, at an acceptable time when Yahuwah get ready. He said, man, O Elohim, in the abundance of your steadfast love, answer me in your saving faithfulness. When I get ready, when Yahuwah get ready, when Yahuwah get ready. Deliver me from the sinking in the mirror, and let me be delivered from my enemies and from the deep waters. Wow. That's all a part of it. From the deep waters, right? Right, so this is the go back to Codex Sinaiticus right quick. Codex Sinaiticus. Codex Sinaiticus, page, skipping over. Yes. All right. Yeah, Codex Sinaiticus chapter, this is chapter 70. Shepherd 7. And it says, and he said to me, seest thou this shepherd? I see him, sir, and I say, thus saith he, in the malach of self-indulgence and deceit, he crushes the souls of the servants of Elohim, and perverteth them from the truth, leading them astray with evil desires, wherein they perish. Verse 6. For they forget the commandments of the living Elohim and walk in vain deceit and acts of self-indulgence, and are destroyed by this malach. Some of them unto death, and others into corruption. I say to him, sir, I comprehend not what means unto death, and what unto corruption. Listen, saith he, the sheep which thou sawest gladsome and skipping about, these are they that have been turned asunder from Elohim utterly, and have delivered themselves over to the lust of this world. And these, therefore, there is not repentance unto life. For the name of Elohim is being blasphemed through them. Now Yahuwah say, Yahuwah, they're going to talk about you. But not even knowing, he said, why are they blaspheming through him? The life of such persons is death. But the sheep that thou sawest not skipping about, but feeding in one place, these are they that have delivered themselves over to the acts of self-indulgence and deceit, but have not uttered blasphemy against Yahuwah. These then have been corrupted from the truth. In these there is hope for repentance, wherein they can live. Corruption then hope of a possible renewal, but death has eternal destruction. Right? Because when you go to the other world, before you can do anything, understand. And again, he went forward a little way, and he showed me a great shepherd, like a wild man in appearance, with a white goat skin thrown about him. And he had a kind of wallet on his shoulder, and a staff very hard, and with a knot in it, and a great whip. And his look was very sour. so that I was afraid of him because of his look. This shepherd then kept receiving the young man, right? The shepherd, those sheep that were frisky and well fed, but not skipping about, and putting them in a certain spot, which was precipitous and covered with thorns and briars, right? Covered with thorns and briars. And then he says, so that they pastured entangled in thorns and briars, and they were in great misery with being beaten by him. And he kept, it says, and he kept driving them about to and fro, and giving them no rest. Altogether, those sheep had not a happy time. That's what it says. And when I saw them so lashed with the whip and vexed, I was sorry for their sakes, because they were tortured and had no rest. I said to the shepherd, who was speaking with me, Sir, who is this shepherd? Who is so hard-hearted and severe, and has no compassion on all these sheep? This, said he, is the malach of punishment, and he is one of the just malachim who presides over punishment. Right, so these are all a part of it. Right, so this is the book of Shepherd 74. We're going to get out of here. We got two more things. After a few Shepherd 74, the Codex Sinaiticus. After a few days, I saw him on the same plain, where I also seen the shepherds. And he said to me, What seekest punishment? Go out of my house, for he afflicted me much. He says, It is necessary for thee, saith he, to be afflicted. For so saith he, the glorious angel of Malach ordered as concerning thee, for he wishes thee to be proved. Why? What so evil have I done? And you get what he said? Sir, say I, that I should be delivered over to this Malach. Well, he said, why I got to be punished by this Malach? I ain't do no evil. Listen, saith he, thy sins are many, yet not so many as thou shouldest be delivered over to this Malach, but thy house. Now you see what Abyb said, if I'm in error, let me be in error, be myself. But he said, but why are you going to do extra stuff? He says, but thy house has committed great iniquities and sins. Your whole household. And that's the only reason you're getting punished. He said, why am I getting punished like this? And the glorious Malach has embittered at their deeds. And for this cause he made thee be afflicted for a certain time, that they also might repent and cleanse themselves from every lust of this world. He said, the only reason you're getting punished more is because of the sins of your house, your household. The only reason he's taking everything away from you is so they can repent. And get what he said. And when therefore they shall repent and be cleansed, then shall the malach of punishment depart. Then the malach of punishment will depart once everybody in the household repent. Then you'll be prosperous again. But until everybody repents in the household, he said you're going to continue to get punished. And guess what? He said, I say to him, Sir, if they perpetrated such deeds, that the glorious malach is embittered, what have I done? I ain't do nothing wrong. He said, they cannot be afflicted otherwise, saith he, unless thou, the head of the whole house, be afflicted. He said, that's the only way. He said, the reproaches have broken my heart. The reproach of those reproaching you, Yahuwah, it fell on me. It's going to fall on you regardless, until everybody repents in the household. And guess what it says? For if thou be afflicted, they also of necessity will be afflicted. Why? That's why he said in the book of, in the 12th patriarch, he said, pray for perfect prosperity. It's not profit, it's profit for you. Because he said, why? They're going to be afflicted too. But if thou be prosperous, they can suffer no affliction. So see, there's no affliction on the household as long as the head got a whole, he's prosperous. Only affliction that's going to come on the household is when the head of the house has no prosper anymore. He's not prospering anymore. Then everybody in the household can get afflicted. go to hunger and thirst and want for everything that they see everybody else has and they don't. That's when people need to repent. Because that's the only reason he ain't prospering. Is because everybody in his household is doing things they should not do. But he said, if I'm in error, he said, let it be on myself. Let it be on me. But if not, let it be on me. Because that's the whole point. It's going to be on you. It says, they cannot be afflicted otherwise, says he, unless thou, the head of the whole house, be afflicted. For if thou be afflicted, they also of necessity will be afflicted. But if thou be prosperous, they cannot suffer no affliction. But behold, sir, say I, they have repented with their whole heart. I am quite aware of myself, saith he, that they have repented with their whole heart. Well, thinkest thou that the sins of those who repent are forgiven forthwith? Certainly not. But the person who repents must torture his own soul and must be thoroughly humbled in his every action, and be afflicted with all divers kinds of affliction. And if he endure the affliction which come upon him, assuredly he who created all things, endowed them with power, will be moved with compassion and bestow some remedy. Right. All right. That's what all managers need to know. You got to know that. Right. So this is the book of. This is the book of. This is the book of. Second book of Adam and second book of Adam and Qahalath. Page 28, chapter XXXI. I think it's 21. I think it's 21. Page 28 of the first and second book of Adam and Qahalath. And it says, page 28, XXI, chapter XXI. And it says, then Adam and Qahalath went in search of the garden, and the heat beat like a flame on their faces, and they sweated from the heat. And they cried before Yahuwah, but the place where they cried was close to the high mountain top, and faced the western gate of the Gum. Then Adam threw himself down from the top of the mountain. His face was torn and his flesh was ripped, and he lost much of his blood, and was close to death. Meanwhile Qahalath remained standing on the mountain, crying over him, lying as he was. And she said, I don't wish to live after him. Why? For all that he did to himself was because of me. He says, so what? Because of me. Why do you think Yahushua said, reproach it and reproach you, Yahuwah, it fell on me? He said, why have you forsaken me, Yahuwah? He's the only reason it came upon me because, she said, because of me, because she admitted. She finally repented. Because all the things that he was afflicted with, he had to suffer affliction because of what the household did. And guess what? Then she threw herself after him. Then she repented. Because you know what happens when you fall down to the ground? You get crushed. Because remember we read in Abyb, he said, why y'all breaking me into pieces? And you know what she did? She broke herself into pieces. It's because a broken and contrite heart, Yahuwah will not refuse. And guess what happens? For all that he did to himself was because of me. Then she threw herself after him and was torn and ripped by the stones and remained lying as dead. And then we read in the Codex Sinaiticus, but the merciful Elohim who looks over his creatures looked at Adam and Qahalath as they lay dead, because you hit the ground. And guess what? And he sent his word to them and raised them. He said, man, I sent them Allah to give you good instructions, that you may serve me with pure heart, that you may prosper again. And he said to Adam, O Adam, all this misery which you have brought on yourself will no effect on my ruling, neither will it alter the covenant of the 5,500 years. Right? He said, I still got things I got to do. But at the same time, he said, all of it fell on me. All right, this is the book of Sirach. This is the book of Sirach, chapter 3. Book of Sirach, chapter 3, 17, 3 and 17. The book of Sirach, the book of Sirach, chapter 3, in verse 17. Book of Sirach 3:17. My son and daughter, go on thy business in Anu, meekness. So shalt thou be beloved of him that is approved. The greater thou art, the more humble thyself. He said, and thou shalt find favor before Yahuwah. Why? Because once you get great, and then you start to do error, and you get afflicted, and Yahuwah says, the only way your household won't get afflicted, you have to be afflicted. So I have to afflict the head of the household and make him not prosperous in order to afflict the rest of the household. Then they're going to repent. But they're not going to repent as long as the head of the household is prosperous. So prosperity ain't just about one person. It's about everybody collectively in the household doing what they're supposed to do. But if everybody in the household ain't doing what they're supposed to do, just understand, your household ain't going to be prosperous. You're going to lose stuff. But it's only to make you repent, though. It's the greater art, the more humble thyself, and thou shalt find favor before Yahuwah. Many are in high places of renown, but mysteries are revealed unto the Anu, to me. For the power of Yahuwah is great, and honor with the lowly. This is why he said they broke. That's when Yahuwah starts showing compassion and mercy on your life, when you get to the lowly state. That's how Yahuwah's going to get his honor back. Seek not out things that are too hard for thee, neither search for things that are above thy strength. Don't even do it. But what is commanded thee, think thereupon with reverence. So you got to think upon that. You got to think real carefully. For it is not needful for thee to see with thine eyes the things that are in secret. If I am in error, let it be on myself. Because all they're going to do is make you Qahalath and bring an argument against him. But guess what it says? Be not curious in unnecessary matters. You see how many unnecessary matters out here in this world right now? They got about 1,500 right now, right? New ones, and they're gonna have another 1,500 tomorrow, next day, the next day. He says, be not curious in unnecessary matters, for more things are showed unto thee than men and women and children understand, and households understand, and mothers and fathers understand. Right? For many are deceived by their own vain opinion, verse 24. And an evil suspicion has overthrown judgment. But guess what? Without eyes thou shalt want light, because you blind. Matter of fact, the Watchmen are blind. His Saphat are blind. They have a mighty appetite. They can't have enough. They can't fast at all and bear some reproach. Because you got to bear reproach. Why? You got to bear it because everybody's been doing stupid stuff. I ain't even reading the Codex Sinaiticus. He said, man, you really stupid right now. Because a lot of people are doing stupid stuff. You be like, ain't attached to my household anymore. Yeah, they are. Because the reproaches and the reproach you, they naming you who are blasphemy among the Goyim because of them. And guess what? You got to bear the reproach. Even though they ain't with me, he's like, so what? You got to bear the reproach. Because they saying stuff they should not be saying. And Yahuwah hear them every single day. And you know what happens after that? You ain't going to prosper. Right? Because the only way I'm going to get them, I have to make you not prosperous. And he's like, why Yahuwah be doing stuff? He'd be like, man, you have no idea. People have no idea. I got away. No, you didn't. It says, for many are deceived by their own vain opinion and have evil suspicion and have overthrown their judgment. Without eyes thou shalt want light. Profess not knowledge, therefore, that thou hast not. Just say you don't know. Don't lie. Because that worked together with the Ruach of sleep. Just say, I don't know. Some people say, I know. And they be trying to say they know. I'd be like, no. Don't say it. A stubborn heart shall fare evil at the last, and he that loveth danger shall perish therein. Right? So you want to be stubborn and you want to go out here and go run straight into a fight, you can go do it. Just understand that if you're a part of somebody's household, they're going to suffer. When you do something wrong, they're going to suffer and they're not going to be prosperous in order to afflict you, to get you to repent. Just know you bring that on everybody else. People like, man, how I lose all that? He's like, yeah. Because the other people in the household were doing stupid stuff. You ain't know about it. Then when you found out, then he would say, I take everything you got. He's like, why everything kept going down from the time I got? He's like, because this is the reason. Because everybody in your household and everybody that was following you around doing all this crazy stuff, he said, that's why. It's all inclusive. You say, yeah. He says, an obstinate heart shall be laden with sorrows. And now you see why you got to bear reproach, right? And a wicked man shall heap sin upon sin. You say, you're going to get sin upon sin. If everybody don't do what they're supposed to. In the punishment of the proud, there is no remedy. Now you see why. We just read in the Codex Sinaiticus how we get remedy. Everybody got to repent. But everybody proud now. He say, Yahuwah send a remedy in his abundant compassion when he see everybody repent. But it's needful for you to get afflicted. That's why I'm going to afflict everybody else. You get what he says? For the plant of wickedness have taken root in him. Man, the heart of the prudent will understand a parable. Why you think Ishmael understand his father's parable? He's like, yeah, you know, an old man came from the Philistines, and he came to meet you, and he told you to put away this tent peg and get another tent peg. He said, what? So you won't have to bear reproach, Ishmael, because you're going to bear it. Because you know that she said, do you know you're going to bear all that? Why you think Jacob had to bear and had to get his thigh at a joint? You said, why Jacob had his thigh at a joint? Recall. People saying, yeah. I said, okay. You got to bear it. It's an expedient that you get afflicted, but he was prosperous too, but for some reason, things start happening. He's like, yeah. Remember, he would have got recalled the first time. He would have left. He would have been gone. He would have never had Leah, right? Yahuwah set that thing up perfectly. He set it up. And it says, the heart of the prudent will understand a parable, and an attentive ear is the desire of a wise man. Uh-oh. That's it. That's why you gotta have an attentive ear. Pay careful attention. And he said, I said, Watchman over you, Safa. He said, man, ain't gonna listen to nothing you say, right? Okay, exactly. They said we will not pay attention. Exactly. But that's not a wise ear. It says, water will quench a flaming fire, and alms making an atonement for sins. It do. And he that requiteth good turns in mindful of that which may come after. And when he faileth, he shall find a stay. So look at all that. We look at Yahushua Mashiach. We look at the true light of life. You know, the one who bore reproach. He bore the reproach of us. Reproach of those who reproach you who fell on me. But he also said, commanded, he said, husbands, love your wives, your nashim, your household, your bride. That's everybody in your household. That's even your animals. Even your maidservant, your ox, your donkey, everything, your children, everything in your household. And you got to bear the reproach of everything that everybody does in that household. And it's needful that you be afflicted and not prosper, so they can be afflicted. Why? Because that's the only way he's going to get a whole household to repent. When you suffer need and want, it's like Darbarine chapter 28 says, all these curses will come upon you and overtake you, because you did not listen to the voice of Yahuwah, your Elohim. So therefore, you're going to be suffering need and want of everything. Why? Because that's going to make you repent. Why? Because that's the only way he's going to get a remedy in your household, by everybody repenting. But these are all a part of the ways of Yahuwah. And knowing that Pesach is coming up, and he said, these are all just to remember Yahushua Mashiach and his death and suffering, and remember he brought you out of Mizraim and the Mizraim mind, right? The Lave, right? Understanding that sorcery and witchcraft and sorcery and necromancy and remote viewing, all these things, and astral projecting, and all these things that people do outside of Yahuwah's knowledge is all a part of the sorcery that Ham knew. But even in bringing out the household of Ham, one still has the mindset of Ham and his household and his family. That's why he told you to avoid such people. Why? Because when you start, now you see why it says in here, right? I'm just popping in my mind. I gotta say it right now. Right, so this is the book of 1 Timothy, There's a reason why he says this. This is why he says this. This is why he says this, right? People say, why he say this stuff? Man, people have no idea. This is why he says this stuff. This is 1 Timothy chapter 3 and verse 1. 1 Timothy chapter 3, verse 1. But understand this, that in the last days there will become different times of difficulty. For people, families, right, will be lovers of self-indulgent. Lovers of money, proud, arrogant, abusive. You read that in the book of Yasha. Disobedient to parents. You know what that's going to do? The whole household going to get afflicted. And you ain't going to prosper. Ungrateful. You start running your mouth against Yahuwah and his greatness and everything he provided. And you know you're ungrateful. What? Unkudash, not kudash. Heartless. Unappeasable. Can't satisfy you. You insatiable in the belly. Slanderous, right? And that's a definitely no-no. Without self-control, you ain't got no control of yourself. Brutal, not loving good, treacherous, reckless drivers, swollen with conceit, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of Elohim. That's why you got to put certain things aside for these first 24 days. Matter of fact, you might have to even do it longer than that. But see, all these things are a part of it. Lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of Elohim. Having an appearance of righteousness, you look good, but denying its power. Avoid such people, because if you don't, you're going to take on their behavior. You're going to take on their behavior in your household, in your children, your nashim, in your family, your maid servant, your men servant, your maid servant. Then Yahuwah going to afflict you, and they're going to have it in their behavior, and they're going to be slandering in your house. They'll be lying, doing all this crazy stuff in your house, disobedient to parents. And you know what happens after that? You ain't going to prosper. And then the husband, the head of the household, going to get afflicted. And you know what happens after that? Everybody get afflicted. Avoid such people. Why? For many of them are those who creep into households. What do you think creep in your household for? To destroy your household. To make you not prosperous. To destroy everything you got. So you can take on their behavior. That residue comes in your home. And you know what happens after that? All that gossip and slander, saying things they shouldn't say. They creep in your household and capture weak women and children. And female, male servants. It ain't just women. Everybody that's in your household. Burdened with sins and led astray by various passions. They all burdened. And guess what happened? Always learning and never able to arrive at the knowledge of the truth. What's the knowledge of the truth? You're a sinner. You're a kata. He says what? And you're easily swayed. And you know how easy it is to do sin in the world? It's easy. That's an easy thing. Always learning and never able to come to the knowledge of the truth. That's why Yahushua said, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. That's the knowledge of the truth. They always learning. He said, man, how come I could never see that? Because you're in fantasy world. You know, like Final Fantasy. Oh, you self-indulgent. Man, you real self-indulgent. He said, what is that? It's a video game, right? Just as Janus and Jambres oppose Mashah, you know why they're doing that? So these men oppose the truth. Why? You know why they oppose him? Because they are filled with the very words, the things that Yahuwah told them not to indulge in. They're self-indulgent. He said, why you firing back? Because they even paying attention. They weren't paying attention to the Safa. Because he said, I wasn't doing what you were doing. I was Safa. I was looking real close, leaning in, afar off. I was looking at things afar off. I was not doing what you were doing. So therefore, I'm leaning in. I'm leaning out. Focusing my eyes like, what's that ahead right there? What is that? Oh, that's something else. Why? Because that's what Safa means. He said, what? He said, why he do all these things? Because when you start to be a Safa, when you start to understand it, you observing, peering at a distance, and then you start to look up. Why do you think Yahushua said, look up for your redemption draws now? People say, what? And that's what Safa is. What you looking for? You know, they say, what you looking for, right? So it says, Janus and Jambres, because they were from, whose lineage they were from? You're from Balaam's lineage. Where he was from? From the land of Ham. From Mizraim. Oppose Mashah, so these men and women also oppose the truth. Men and women corrupted in mind, disqualified regarding Amunah, for they will not get very far. You know what happens when you don't get very far? Yahuwah heads you in on every side. He stopped your movement patterns. He said, matter of fact, it used to cost this much to go. Now it's going to cost even more. And that's getting ready to happen too. It's going to cost even more now. You know, the redemption of your soul is very costly now. Oh, it's going to be so costly, man. You're going to be wondering, like, how I'm going to get back. He said, man, the only way that's going to do that is who are going to have to do something. Disqualified from Amunah, but they will not go very far, for their folly will be plain to all. He said, do you know now? Or can you see? Or are you still blind? As was those two men. Right? So we look at all that. We look at Yahushua Mashiach. Look at the true light of life. Look at the understanding on this 364-day cycle. Knowing as you get closer and closer to Pesach, you still got Ayul to move out of your tent, your Ehel. Right? And these are all a part of the transformations and understanding the first 16 days of the first month. And all they say moving towards that day. And understanding what it's like to be in a little leaven leavens a whole lump. When you start looking at your body, understand you got bread in your body from when you were in your youth, that you ate when you were young. And that's the words that people spoke. And it's still in your joints, in your liver, in your kidneys. And you know when they come up in your mind, you be like, man, where'd that come from? That's the little leaven that's inside of you that's been sown in your heart and your mind from when you're young. And your interactions with things that you should not interact with. And amazingly, you can actually see these things inside. Because, you know, people don't know that even the very leaven is living organisms. It's living organisms. That's what leaven is. It's a living organism inside of you. And they stay inside of your body. Right? And just like any other thing inside of your body, it stays inside of your joints and your marrow and your kidney. You need bread to survive. Because they hold your body together. And you look at all these things that transform our heart and our mind. We must transform ourselves, be renewed in the knowledge and the image of His Creator. And then being in the image and likeness of Yahuwah, you put your household in the image and likeness of Yahuwah. You put your thoughts in the image and likeness of Yahuwah. You put your heart in the image and likeness of Yahuwah. And then you put your character in the image and likeness of Yahuwah. And he said, you be one of the people that will inherit the Eretz, right? You be one of those people. For the meek shall inherit the earth. The meek, you shall inherit the Eretz.